Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dare County Board of Commissioners, the second day of April. I'd like to ask the Dr. Wayne Berry if he'll come forward with the invocation. Doctor, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you. In this holy time celebrated by the three Abrahamic religions, and at the end of this second week of spring, which screams of creation's possibilities, at the beginning of the second quarter of this calendar year, and as we approach the last weekend of the big dance for college basketball, let us pray. God of all love and kindness, God of compassion, reconciliation, and healing, thank you for the work of your hands and the beauty of your creation. Thank you for the men and women wolf packs. Bless our commissioners and the work of self-governance and protection they oversee. Let them be clear in their understanding of our county's needs and sharp in their vision of how you would meet them. Help our commissioners be loyal to your care for the most needy among us, and help them manage taxpayer money as you yourself would. Help them, please, to model our justice in all model your justice in all matters involving their employees and our fellow citizens. Bless our public servants, especially police, rescue, and health personnel. Be with our most vulnerable citizens. Encourage those who share through public comment joys and needs we are unaware of but should be, and help all of us present model the respect for each other that you have for each one of us. Finally, in your goodness and grace and in our incredible greed, please see the wolf packs through 4 more wins. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Berry. May we stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started this morning, Commissioner Rob Ross is not able to be with us. He's out of town, has an excused absence this morning. Also like to recognize 2 of our Board of Education commissioners are here this morning. That's Susan Bothwell and Mary Ellen Balance. Thank you all for being here this morning. We also have Superintendent Halleck here this morning. I'd like to amend the agenda to add item 4A, Park Superintendent Dave Halleck. They have a motion to do so.
So moved. Second.
It's a motion on the floor by the Vice Chairman, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman and House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. I had asked the superintendent to do his presentation to us here on the northern beaches that he recently did last week on Hatteras Island. So Superintendent Halleck, thank you for agreeing to do that, and look forward to your presentation this morning. With that being said, I'll turn it over to the county manager.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Item 1 on the agenda is the chairman's update.
Thank you, County Manager. I'm going to ask my board and the public if you will bear with me this morning. I have some comments to make that's a little bit longer than normal than I typically do. Just a lot to cover. I'll start out with I want to commend the Community Foundation for their annual meeting that was held on Tuesday, 3/12. It was a very uplifting meeting. They recognized two of our superstars, longtime residents of Dare County, and that's Ray White and Bobby Owens. Very nice tribute that the foundation gave to the two of them. Several of us attended the State of the Children's Conference recently, and that was on Thursday, March the 14th. Another really informative meeting and great conference. And my hat's off to what that group is doing for our children. We recently opened the Southern Shores EMS and fire station. It was completely rebuilt, and that ribbon cutting was 3/15. If you haven't had an opportunity to go by there and visit the site, it's a fantastic building, really great addition to Southern Shores, and we certainly look forward to I believe the next opening county manager will be the KDH property. Looking forward to that. If you haven't seen that, I don't know how you've missed it on the bypass, but it's a pretty big building, and we're looking forward to opening that. The board has committed some $42 million rebuilding our outdated EMS fire stations throughout the county. And hats off to the CIP committee and this board for approving that. It'll be a great asset with these new facilities in our county. Can't forget the senior games. They're coming up on the 19th of this month, and they will start at about 10:30 in the morning and go till 1. I believe that's on a Friday at the Baum Center. So if you have time, stop by and watch those folks. They're pretty agile with what they can accomplish, and they would love to have you be there. Next item I have is I don't certainly know every one of y'all are aware of the situation on Hatteras Island with the government and the issue with the oil there on the beach. Keep in mind, and Superintendent Halleck will remind us of this, it's about 75 miles of beach, and we're talking about 0.2 of a mile. Our real estate and property management firms are getting inquiries daily about coming down, and we've got tons of beach for these folks to participate in, and there have been some cancellations. So we've got to do everything we can to encourage folks to continue to head to the Outer Banks for their vacation, because we do have pristine beaches open. We have that one section there that is in it's a federal government's problem, and they're not stepping up to the plate. And Superintendent Halleck will address that. We were fortunate that when he had his meeting on Hatteras Island, Commissioner Couch, the vice chairman, myself, and the county manager were in D.C. 3 days last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, meeting with our senators Tillis' office and Bud's office, addressing this specific issue with them. We've got some really good feedback from both offices. They were quite aware of what was going on down there. They'll be reaching out to higher echelon in D.C. With respects to what they can do to see and help us get the federal government to step up to the plate and clean this mess up. This is critical. It's critical for our residents on Hatteras Island. It's critical for our visitors. In addition to speaking with them about that, we talked to them. Most of you are aware we get funds for raising houses in Dare County. This year we've gotten $5 million to be able to raise about 31 homes, and we told them that that was such a successful program that we would ask them to entertain seeking double those kinds of funds so that we could raise more houses. This is an ongoing thing, and we've been very fortunate to have that done, and they certainly said that they would look into it. You may or may not be aware, I had a task force for about a year and a half with NC-12 issues. There are about 8 hotspots on NC-12 from the bridge further south. The task force developed a priority list, and we told our legislators in DC that we would like for them to take a look at this priority list, and the county manager sent that to them right away so that they could interject for us and potentially help us find some solutions. Superintendent Halleck was on that task force as well, so we're hoping to get some input from them to tackle these 8 hotspots. NCDOT does a fabulous job, as you know. They clear the highway when we have overwash. They're out there doing storms and repairing it during the storm. So we're grateful for what NCDOT does for us. Another issues we asked them to take a look at, and if they could help us interject. We talked about jetties at Oregon Inlet. And then we talked about the length of time in processing permits for us to be able to dredge for the Miss Katie. Shouldn't take us any longer than what it normally takes the Corps to get permits to do stuff. So we asked them if it was any help that they could give us in speeding up that process. Once again, they were very, very engaged. They were very, very supportive of our request, and we will follow up with them in a week or so to see if if they have made any progress with respects to these topics that we addressed with them. Next item, and then I'll come down front. I have a presentation to make, but the next item. Let me finish with, while we were in Washington, we had an opportunity to attend the American Shore Beach and Preservation session that was there. And for nearly a century, the American Shore and Beach Preservation Association has been a leading force in Washington, D.C., advocating for the resilience of our nation's beaches, coast, and shoreline. As a matter of fact, they have some $456.5 million in programs that they're asking the feds to support in this upcoming legislative session. Most House members, Senate, are very, very supportive of WERDA and making sure that that our coastlines are shored up and are protected. I'd like to share some facts with you that are pretty astounding, and it echoes our beach nourishment goals and objectives, because this is certainly our economic engine, just as it is for the country. These facts are astounding. Travel and tourism is the largest employer in the United States, providing 15.6 1.8 million jobs in the U.S. It is the leading U.S. small business employer, accounting for 1 in every 4 new jobs in the country. In 2022, U.S. travel and tourism generated $2.6 trillion in total economic output. Survey data indicates that beaches are the leading tourist attraction in the United States, with over 50% of Americans saying it is their favorite vacation destination. How true that is, Lee Nettles, for us here on the Outer Banks. We have to keep our beaches nourished because this is certainly our economic engine. Annually, beach tourists generate $520 billion in economic output, $240 billion in direct spending, and $36 billion in taxes to the federal, state, and local governments. Beaches are not only magnets for tourism, but they also perform a double duty of protecting land infrastructure during storms. And then finally, for every $1 spent on beach nourishment annually, beach tourists generate about $3,000 in economic output and $1,400 in direct spending and $200 in taxes. That's for every dollar spent on beach nourishment. And we've spent in the last 10 years over $250 million with respects to nourishing our beaches. Last subject I want to broach before I make a presentation this morning, housing. Housing is one of the toughest issues this board has faced in the last 4 years. We've worked for some 3.5 years to try to do some essential and workforce housing in Dare County. As most of you are aware, we've got a $35 million grant from the state of North Carolina. We've not been successful in being able to use any of that up to date to build any housing. We hired a company, Woda Cooper, to do LIHTC. If you're not familiar with LIHTC, that's contractors that can build receiving 4 and in some cases 9% tax credits to do LIHTC housing. We broke that up when we made this selection some 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, and we chose Coastal Affordable Housing to do the housing for us for that $35 million. Woda Cooper was the county's funds to some $12 million that we were working with them. Woda Cooper was in here for a substantial amount of time, and they were unsuccessful in getting municipalities to work with them to be able to build something. We've not been able to do anything so far with coastal housing. It's evident to our board that perhaps the public, at least we're seeing that the public is not supportive of housing. So with that being said, I have called a special board meeting next Tuesday in this chamber at 9 o'clock in the morning for this board to address housing, where we started, where we are, and where are we going. We will make a decision that day of where we go from here. And I encourage you to attend. We'll open it up and have everything on the table with respects to 3.5 years ago where we started, what's been done, what hasn't been done, what the future might look like. But this board needs to make a decision in what direction we're going to go from here, moving forward with respects to essential housing in Dare County. With that being said, I'm going to come down front and make a special presentation. And I'd like for my board to join me down front. This room is a pretty sacred room. See all those pictures on the wall all the way around, all the way back to this gentleman right here. Benjamin Daniels, Chairman, Dare County Board of Commissioners, 1893. Longest serving commissioner and chairman of the Dare County Board of Commissioners is Mr. Bobby Owens. Outstanding man, native of the area, prince of a guy, unbelievable human being who I was fortunate to call my friend. I talked to this board. This board's aware of his talents and his giving back to this community. As I said, this room is sacred. A lot has taken place over the years in this room. I believe Bobby served 22 years as as commissioner. And he served 13 years as chairman, longest serving chair, longest serving commissioner in Dare County. Our board, I reached out to them and said, guys, what can we do to honor Bobby? Could not be more appropriate than to name this room that you're all sitting in today as the Robert V. Bobby Owens Jr. meeting room. Every time you walk in that door, you walk through those security things, and you look right up there on the wall on the left, you'll see this bronze plaque hanging on that wall. It's covered up right now. You didn't see it this morning, but you'll see it when you go out. And it's identical to this. It says, in grateful recognition of the exceptional leadership, unwavering dedication, outstanding service demonstrated by Robert V. Bobby Owens Jr., this room is hereby dedicated in his honor. As the longest serving Dare County Commissioner, I did remember everything. How about that? 22 years, chairman. As chair, and 13 years as chairman. Owens consistently exemplified a commitment to excellence, inspiring colleagues and driving innovation. Owens was characterized by loyalty, service, vision, courage, poise, and dignity. His exceptional attributes and contributions significantly impacted and shaped the success and growth of Dare County over the years. I'd like to ask for his son, Mr. R.B. Owens, to come forward, and his family. I believe his son Bo's here, his wife, and son-in-law. I'd like for you all to come forward to accept this honor. Love you, Dad. Hey guys, RV, we'd like for you to have that, display that wherever you might find a nice place for it, but we want you to have that. And we'll go outside and we'll unveil the bronze plaque that's the entrance to this door. But we thank you. We thank you for what your dad did for this county.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You get some food? Hey, big boy.
Thank you.
We'll walk outside and unveil that plaque for you guys.
Appreciate you.
Give us just a minute, folks. County Manager, that concludes the chairman's remarks this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That brings us to item 2 on the agenda. This is our service spends. This is an opportunity we have to recognize our employees who are the engine that makes the county government go. This morning we have, I think, about 50 years of service that we're going to recognize first. And first on my list is Matt Hester. If Matt will come down and receive a 10-year pin. Matt's in his favorite place in front of the camera.
Exactly.
Matt is getting his 10-year pin today. It seems like he's been here a lot longer than that with all the things that we've done and all the things that we've accomplished. But he started in 2014, and in 2017, he was promoted to the IT director and has been serving that role ever since. Time flies when you're having fun, right, Matt?
Exactly.
Matt's a very critical part of our team. As you know, just look in front of you, you're so reliant on technology and all the things that we do, we can't hardly make it without it. We found that out over the last month or so. How many fiber breaks have we had four, there you go, that shut everything down. And then Matt's running around scrambling to find backup ways to keep us up and running. he did that. He made it work. He cobbled it together. He did the things that we needed to do so that the county kept on doing the things that we needed to do without missing a beat, even though it wasn't perfect. And so a great job by him. And that's what he and his team that's sitting over here do every day for us. As many of you know, Matt, but he's about as unassuming a person as you'll meet. He's quiet, but he's hardworking, and he's got his eye on the ball. There's probably not many days that go by that he's not in my office either asking or telling me or keeping me abreast of something that's going on to make sure that we can keep things going with all the cybersecurity risk and the hacking risk and all that stuff that he's got to take care of and make sure we're doing all the right things. Not only is he the fix-it man and has a team that makes it all go, but he's also the planner. And he's been here 10 years. If you would look at where we were 10 years ago with technology versus where we are today, it's night and day different. 10 years from now, it'll be night and day different than what it is today. And Matt's got to keep up with all that. He keeps planning. He keeps moving us forward. He keeps us abreast of what's coming to make sure that we're up to speed, that we're safe, and that we can do the work for the county that we need to do. Matt does have a little bit of a life outside of Dare County. He likes to travel. He's going to get a well-deserved vacation here shortly. I think he's starting on a trip to New Zealand here in the next week or so. Yeah. And so good for Matt on that. He's married. His wife, Charlotte, is also in technology. I'm sure they have some interesting conversations around the dinner table. So, but she's in technology at First Flight Elementary School. And, in his spare time, Matt's kind of handy. He built his own house. And so he spends his time doing those kind of things. Matt, we appreciate you. We appreciate your 10 years. We hope for 10 more. Yep. And thanks for all that you do. And here is your pen.
Great. Thank you.
Next, we have William Bill Laricos receiving his tenure pin from Jenny Collins.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
County staff. This is Bill Laricos. Bill, I'll say he started when he was 10 because I'm going to give some stats about him. In 1974, he started his career in public safety, and that was with Howard County, Maryland Police Department, where he spent 21 years with them. He was an EMT in 1980 in the state of Maryland, and he also was a volunteer fire department up there, and he started out as a firefighter, and through his tenure with that department rose to the rank of a deputy chief. In 2001, he was in the Outer Banks, and he started volunteering with Frisco Volunteer Fire Department as a firefighter, and also with Hatteras Island Rescue Squad. With the rescue squad, he's rose to the rank of a captain, has been their training officer, and also the vice president on the board of directors. He, in 2003, started to wise up and got his North Carolina EMT. And actually, it wasn't until 2012 he started with Dare County EMS, first as a part-time EMT, and following a year later with Hyde County as a part-time EMT. And then in 2014, he got really wise and came on full-time with Dare County EMS and been with us. In 2015, he got his EMT intermediate, what is now termed an advanced EMT. And you might see that his face is familiar because in 2017, he did receive the VFW EMT EMS Public Servant Award. And he has been a very faithful employee with us. He's one of our VFIS driving instructors. Chairman Woodard, you had him at the State of the County last year talking about beach nourishment down south, and the positive impacts that that's had. And he's also very active with our ambulance design team with specs and building our ambulances. So he's here with his wife, Marcia, today, who's in the audience. But Bill, congratulations on 10 years with us.
Thank you,
And
Chief.
lots more, right?
Thank you.
Next, we have Matthew Stankavich, who's also receiving a 10-year pin from Jenny Collins.
So this is Matt Stankovich. In 2012, he started in his public safety career, but he started with the National Park Service as a lifeguard. And he knew from that summer of doing lifeguarding that ocean rescue and the associated emergency response that they do was something that he wanted to do long term. Fortunately or unfortunately, he broke his leg the following spring and he couldn't lifeguard. So he took that opportunity and went and got his EMT at college. In 2014, he had finished up with his college, been successful in getting his EMT, and he had been offered a job as a lifeguard in Palm Beach County, Florida. And so before he left, he decided to stop by Station 1 and walk in to see if maybe he could volunteer and get some experience in EMS before he moved to Palm Beach, Florida. Well, he was offered a full-time job as an EMT with Dare County EMS, and he decided to stay, which was a good thing. So he initially didn't realize that EMS was going to be his calling, but he has absolutely found his passion providing that type of care. 2015, he also became an EMT intermediate, which we now call advanced EMT, and he is currently in the COA paramedic program, and he's scheduled to finish as the end of May. And we will be getting him interned and everything and cut loose as one of our newer paramedics. He does have lots of other hobbies, loves family time at the beach and surfing and fishing. And with his wife, Taylor, who's here today, they run the Cape Hatteras Coffee Company down south. So, Matt, thank you very much for 10 years and looking for many, many more. I need something to stand on so I'm taller next to him. Thank you.
Next, if Sheila Hassel would come forward to receive her 20-year pin from Beth Bradley.
Welcome, ladies.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Sheila's direct supervisor, Danielle Stein, couldn't be here today, and she asked me to share her thankfulness for Sheila. Sheila's 20 years of service are a testimony to her dedication in the In-Home Aid program with DSS. She's truly valued for her contributions, and she provides excellent care to the citizens of Dare County. Along with working as a full-time aide, she also cares for her family and works other jobs. I don't know how she does it. I think it is wild that you can do all that. And I think it just shows what her work ethic is like and about how much she cares about people. Her professionalism and clinical skills have helped numerous clients over the years. She's a valued team member, and she holds herself accountable to the highest standard for care for her clients. Sheila is humorous, and she has a very quick wit. She always has something funny to say at staff meetings. She keeps us on our toes and is commonly the saving grace when conversations are tense. Not only do we love her for her humor, she has an amazing heart. She is completely vested in any way that she can be to improve her client's day. She'll often stop and pick up a biscuit to take to a client's home just to brighten their day. That's just the kind of person that she is. This compassion and connection to other people is not a skill that can be taught, as you guys know. Sheila's heartfelt compassion goes above and beyond her duties as an in-home aide. She's always giving her time and effort to those in need. So it's with great pride that we give you the 20-year pin and the recognition that reflects our appreciation for your years of service. We want to express our personal appreciation. Danielle and I wanted to share that with you about all of the clients that you've helped stay in their homes for as long as possible and keep them safe and protect them and let them age with dignity in their home. And that's something special. So you're an important member of our team, and your abilities and contributions are the basis for the continued service we provide to the residents of Dare County. Dedicated and loyal employees are hard to find. So here's to 20 more, right?
Chairman, that brings us to our employee of the month. We have 3 employees of the month this time. We have our January, our March, and our April employee of the month. And we'll start with our January one. And if Jeff Derringer would come forward to make that presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us this morning. We really appreciate the Employee of the Month. Like the county manager said, this is from January because this gentleman was out on baby leave with his first child. And Mr. Dustin Walston was chosen. If you'll come up, Dustin. He's been with the Sheriff's Office since 2005. Dustin has done many things, starting as a patrol deputy, working out and in Manio and up the beach. He was then chosen to go to First Flight Middle School, which has a special place with the Sheriff Daddy and I, because as you know, the sheriff was an SRO and so was I, actually at First Flight Middle. So he's been there 6 years. He did achieve his advanced law enforcement certification, and he goes above and beyond because Sheriff Daddy's Camp Salt program that is operated in the summertime, Dustin is an integral part where he is out there every day in the summer with the kids of Dare County. But he just extends that from his time in the school where he helps them with their homework and investing in our kids in our community. So new father, daddy, congratulations on Employee of the Month. And Mr. Dustin Walston. Thank you.
For our March employee of the month, would Dave Stuka come forward to make that presentation?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Dave.
I'd like to start today recognizing and introducing our Employee Month for March, Mr. James Bassman. It was tough getting James here this morning without smelling like a weed eater. He gets started early in the morning. But James started working for the county in 1999. He'll have his 25 years in here this August. He spent all those years working for grounds maintenance. In 2016, he came to the county, he got promoted to crew leader. And since that time, he's been instrumental with the workload of 43 properties and sites from Southern Shores to the tip of Hatteras. He did that well. When I came here 3 years ago, James kind of taught me how to get that work scheduled. He would communicate clearly to the crew what the expectations were for the day and what had to get done and what we had to do when we got back at the end of the day to make mobilizing in the morning more prompt. Sounds easy, but we ran into a bunch of roadblocks between vehicle issues, trailer breakdowns, equipment issues, manpower issues. James made it look easy. He would turn around and he would shift the manpower around to mobilize them to different sites. Being in public works, it was easy to go do detention, the helicopter pad, and other areas that were close by. But he made it look easy and he got the work done. And somehow he found a way to get the employees just to give that little bit more each day to meet the goals for the day. We're currently operating at 31 sites as we have contracts with a couple contractors up on the beach and down on Hatteras Island. But 31 sites here, Emmanuel is huge because we still have the admin complex and the new COA. Here at the admin complex, that's a whole week's job. That's 37 and a half hours this man puts in every single day or every week to get done what needs to get done here. And I think over the past year, we've seen a humongous amount of improvements here at the admin complex, just with James being here, concentrating his efforts here. So we've all seen James around from site to site. He has a knack for finding the things that needs to be done. He'll try to tackle them while he's on site. If he can't, he has a great memory and remembers when he shows up the next time, he's going to go get it done. Sometimes in the morning, James will see me and be like, hey, do you have anything special for me today? I usually get a little laugh over that because in his mind, that means I got something planned, so don't mess that up on me. And that kind of coincides with the statement for the nomination of the Employee of the Month, which stated he is always busy around the admin complex, whether it's being cutting grass, weed eating, blowing, watering plants, etc. He takes pride in his work and never seems to complain. He's very courteous when people are passing him, and while he is working, he will stop the blower or stop weed eating, and he keeps the place looking great. During the winter months, you'll see James and the crew here on site putting up Christmas trees and decorations, along with a couple places around the area such as EOC and the health department. Earlier this year, we received our new truck vehicle, heavy duty truck for hauling our big trailer. So that was sitting around the yard for a while. And when I got the registration and the license plate, I handed it to James. And he was, for the first time I've known him, speechless. But he goes, no, really? I go, yeah, this is yours. You earned it and all that. Come to find out, it's the first new vehicle he ever got to drive as his primary vehicle here at work. And he definitely earned it. So I'd see him around town driving around, and I'll give him a call once in a while and be like, hey, I saw you driving. That's a pretty mean looking truck. And he'd get a little smirk on his face. So that was good. But James is a very friendly and personable individual. If he sees you, he'll greet you and say hello. He's respectful to everyone around him, from coworkers to customers to your everyday citizens. He's always willing to be flexible and accommodating to address issues that may arise from time to time. He also does a great job coaching the new crew on better techniques and strategies. If you ask any one of the guys in the grounds crew, nobody could run a weed eater like James can. You know, when he first came to the county working for grounds maintenance, he spent the first 3 years only running a weed eater. Nobody could do a better job than James. So congratulations, James, on your Employee of the Month. You deserve it, and definitely long overdue.
All right, appreciate it. Can I say something? First of all, I know times are hard, but me personally, I would like to thank Mr. Allen and the rest of the board members for continually to figure out ways to keep us all employed. I know this thing is hard. You know, you look at TV every day, you see a lot of stuff going on and kind of scary. Because I know it could be just a blink of an eye and you'd be without a job, but you guys are working behind the scenes to keep us all employed. I like to say to you, Dave, I really appreciate this.
Yes,
And you
sir.
make my heart happy.
Good.
And I notice in my old age, I get a little emotional. but that's okay. But I also would like to thank Mr. Derringer and his whole force for the hospitality, the friendly things that they say, the courtesy, all the kind of things that will make my job easy out here. And I like to let them know too that I feel out of all the different kinds of people that is riding through this parking lot, I feel safe because of those guys.
And then for our April Employee of the Month, if Sheila Davies would come forward to make that presentation.
Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning. It is my great pleasure to recognize the County Employee of the Month for April. And with that, I would like to invite Misty Parnell to come join us. to podium.
Sheila, that's my help lady.
They told me I was here for a different reason, so I'm like.
Misty was hired 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, on May 12th of 2014, as an environmental health specialist with Health and Human Services. And I believe, did you think you were here for your 10-year pin?
Yes.
That's next month. So, surprise. Misty was promoted to the Senior Environmental Health Specialist in July of 2018. She has 5 state authorizations: food and lodging, commercial pools, tattoo, child care centers and public schools, and child-led. She teaches at our Serve Safe classes for food service managers. She helps with the initial field training at local pools. She conducts the state-required internal quality assurance field and documentation reviews. She prepares the food and lodging monthly reports. She has always completed all of her required state inspections to keep us on track for achieving 100% compliance rate with the state. That is huge. That actually in turn means extra dollars to the county. And we are one of the few counties that does this year after year after year. And it's huge work that Misty and her team puts in. Misty is an integral member of the environmental health and the Health and Human Services team. She is caring, cheerful, and encouraging. She was recognized internally as one of our Employee of the Month in a previous quarter. And she has served as a member of our social committee and did a phenomenal job with that, always just encouraging and helping the morale of our team. She is well respected and appreciated not only by our team, but those of clients and restaurants where she serves. And as you can imagine, being an inspector going into restaurants, they don't always welcome you with open arms, but Misty does such a great job with communicating with our restaurant managers and working with them, whether it's violations or inspections, that she's so well respected. To quote a few of her colleagues, Misty Parnell is an amazing coworker, health inspector, role model, and trainer. I have worked with Misty for over 5 years now and have never worked with anyone that is so positive, pleasant, and professional all the time. Misty balances her regular establishment list of inspections along with her responsibilities as the senior for food and lodging. Thanks to Misty's efforts performing quality assurance, we have improved not only in documenting violations under the correct codes, but also with ensuring that we follow up with the establishments regularly to verify that these violations have been corrected. She makes sure to review with each inspector privately what they're doing great and what they could improve upon. She never says we're doing something wrong or approaches it in a demeaning manner, which is just another example of her positive attitude. Misty keeps her work phone on her at all times, even on your time off, and is always available to her staff or her establishments if they have questions or need to contact her with issues. Misty is truly the perfect example of what an environmental health specialist should be and is so deserving of this honor. So congratulations and thank you. And this,
before we go to public comment, any of you that received an award this morning, if you please go right out through that door so Caitlin can get a picture. And we'll wait just a second for the ring. Ladies and gentlemen, now's the time that's been set aside for public comment. If you would like to make public comment and you've not signed up, please raise your hand. I'll recognize you. When I do, please come to the podium, state your name and where you're from. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. There's a green light up on the podium that'll tell you when your time begins. There's a yellow light that'll tell you when you've got about a minute left. And when the red light comes on, please conclude your remarks. The first person I have on here is Mary Ellen Balance.
Welcome this morning, Mary Ellen.
Good morning. I'm going to give you some good news. And I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of update on our the Cape Hatteras shooting team, as well as some information on we have 3 shooting teams in the county. So each year, Dare County Youth participates in the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission Youth Hunter Safety Skills Tournament. There are 3 teams in the county. First Flight is led by Ralph Jarvis, Manio by Ben Pressgraves, and Hatteras is led by Brian Van Druten. Between these teams, there's about 140 young men and women that participate each year. In order to participate, each child is required to complete a hunter safety education course, which includes the firearm safety rules, shooting skills, hunting skills. There's like 10 different units within the course. The score that these team members earn on their test goes towards the overall points that they earn as a team. And they practice for about 3 to 4 months to prepare for this district competition. And it's held in March at the Columbia 4-H Center, just right around the corner. Each team can enter up to 4 teams. Typically, it's 2 junior, 2 senior teams. My son has participated in this for years. So when I found out how they did this year, I just had to, it's just such a great program. They compete in archery, rifles, they're 22s, shotgun, trap shot, and then they have the test and some other things that the scores are all brought together. So they just met in March 24th at the District 1 competition in Cape Hatteras, had 2 junior, 1 senior. Manio had 2 senior, 1 junior, and First Flight entered 2 senior and 1 junior. And of that competition, Dare County represents 25% of the kids that are involved in that tournament out of 13 counties in District 1. That's a huge, that 25% of those kids are Dare County kids. This year, now I get to brag on Cape Hatteras. This year, Cape Hatteras placed, the Cape Hatteras senior team placed 3rd in hunter skills. The junior team placed 1st in hunter skills, 3rd in rifle, 3rd in shotgun, and earned enough total points to win the district title and their 3rd straight showing at the state tournament. And they'll compete in that state tournament April 27th in Ellerbe, North Carolina. The Cape Hatteras junior black team had also won 4 of the 5 individual junior events. Paisley Schultz won the rifle, and Liam Van Druten won the hunter safety skills and archery events, and amassed enough total points to win the overall junior title for 2024. So just wanted to let you guys, the county gives each of those 3 teams $1,500 through Parks and Rec to help support that, but these teams all have to fundraise in order to meet those needs. They are doing a fundraiser at the Jeanette's Pier on May 10th to help raise those funds, but it's a lot of community support, and with the help from the help from the county, it's just such a really amazing program for our kids to be involved in, you know, outside of school, within their community. And it's just a really awesome thing when you go to this tournament and you see all these different kids talking to each other and getting to know each other. They all have such a really interesting common bond with the different hunting skills because we're just such an outdoor place. So I just wanted to bring that to you and thank you for your support with those three teams. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Next is Hobble.
Welcome this morning, Ms. Howell.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Aida Havel, and I live in Salvo. Chairman Woodard, Vice Chairman Overman, Commissioner Couch, and Mr. Outen. I want to thank you for visiting our representatives in Washington last week and bringing the Buxton Beach contamination problem directly to them. Thank you also for presenting this problem to the American Shore and Beach Preservation Association. And Commissioner Bateman, thank you for coming to the public meeting in Buxton last week. My comment today revolves around the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the questions in my mind after they provided their press release about their summary report last week. And you may be interested to know that I contacted them for a copy of that report. And they said that it was too large to be emailed to me and that it would be posted publicly soon. So here are my 7 questions based only on their press release and some tiny research that I've been able to do. Number 1, why is the Army Corps of Engineers continuing to study and assess this situation instead of taking action? They have been studying and assessing it for 6 months. 2, why does the Army Corps of Engineers say that they are working with the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, the National Park Service, and the Coast Guard, but not with the EPA? 3, one of the Army Corps of Engineers' stated missions is to, quote, reduce disaster risk. Why have they not started work in the last 6 months to reduce the risk from this disaster? 4, the Army Corps of Engineers website says that they have a Rapid Response Center of Expertise, which is capable of providing time-critical remediation and removal project execution. Why are they not doing that here? 5, I know the Army Corps of Engineers can move quickly when they want to, because they already have a picture of the Baltimore Bridge on their website, as well as copy describing what immediate action they are taking. Why are they not moving that quickly on Buxton Beach? 6, under the FUDS program, there is something known as interim risk management procedures. Has the Army Corps of Engineers implemented any interim risk management procedures? If not, why not? 7, finally, why has the Army Corps of Engineers not come before you to explain what they are doing, what their timetable is, and give you an opportunity to ask them questions? Why did they not come to last week's public meeting? Why have they not reached out to the community to hold a public meeting? If appropriate, I urge the county to write a letter to the Army Corps of Engineers asking some or all of these questions. I also implore you to keep this matter at the very front of your consciousness, and I know you will. This problem is not going to be miraculously solved by one visit to Washington or one conversation. We must all continue to push for immediate action by anyone and everyone now. For people who are listening or watching, there are several actions you can take right now. If you live in Buxton, the Buxton Civic Association is forming and needs all hands on deck. If you live or work on Hatteras Island, we need the support of every business to push for action. If you live elsewhere in Dare County, this matter affects you too. People who are unfamiliar with the Outer Banks may think that Buxton is near Kitty Hawk. And just because Buxton isn't near Kitty Hawk, we still need to all pull together. If you know anyone in the media or in government or in a national public organization, now is the time to reach out and ask them to help us. Dare County has an unfortunate but resilient history of having to do as much as it can on its own before any outside help steps in. That is the case here, but we can't wait. We must get national help and attention now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Brian Harris.
Welcome,
Good
Mr.
morning,
Harris.
everybody. I'm Brian Harris. I'm a Buxton resident with my son. My son Sawyer is with me. He's going to be speaking next. He wanted me to come up here. So when my time's up or when I'm done, we'll switch it over to him. I wanted to inform the board that we have formed the Buxton Civic Association. We have, I believe, a very strong 9 representatives of local Buxton citizens. Only Wolfie Blackwood was able to attend today. It's what has happened and what's happening down there is very concerning. I have really just one question for you guys. Has anybody ever heard of the Restoration Advisory Board? Is there any familiarity with them? And why has not the EPA or the Army Corps of Engineers has never established that with the local Buxton community? It's required at all FUD sites, and we just, that's one of the first things we're going to be doing as a civic association. Thank you, Urban Bateman, Danny Cowles and all you guys. I know you guys are on top of this as much as you are. It's just after Halleck gives his presentation, it's pretty disturbing, some of the stuff, some of the facts that are going to come out. And that's really where I'm at with everything. I just hope we have your blessing moving forward with the Civic Association of Buxton. We'd like to have, a chair and a seat in some of the decisions that are made up here. I won't be driving up here. Normally we would just go to the annex, but I felt like we wanted to come today and talk and let you guys know where we're at with everything. And then I wanted to give you guys all just a copy of the RAB program that was established in 1994 by the EPA. And it's pretty strict guidelines for these FUD sites and how nobody down there has known anything about any of it. It's just, it's got everybody on edge. Everybody's real worried about tourism like you guys should be. I think what's happening is just, it's going to affect tourism. There's no way around it. It already has. It's going to. I think it's going to get worse, especially after you see some of the things that David Halleck's going to present to you. So if you don't mind, I'd walk up there and I'd like to give every one of you a copy of this.
Absolutely.
And then that's my time, Mr. Allen. Sawyer's more organized than I am. He actually wrote a speech.
Sawyer, you're next on the list.
Sawyer, come on up, buddy.
Hello, commissioners, and thank you for your time. My name is Sawyer Harris, and I live in Buxton, next to the old Navy base. I spend a lot of my time at the beach and swimming. I'm here today to tell you the beach needs to get back together and safe for me and everyone. Right now, there are a lot of hazards that could really hurt one of us. I have an idea. We can get some of the school students to write letters or posters or make videos or emails to show how many kids or adults want the beach back. Please tell me this if you like this idea.
We love that idea.
Good?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Sawyer.
Justin Bateman.
I borrow some of his minutes?
Welcome this morning, Justin.
Good morning. Good morning. Let me say, what a brave young man. What a brave young man. When I was that age, I don't know that I could have got up here and done that.
You could
Heck,
have.
it's hard to do it right now.
You could have, Justin.
Well, thank you. I know you said, Mr. Chairman, that next Tuesday, you're going to have that special meeting about the housing issue and some of the information that's been floated out there. But I want to start a little bit today. So I thank you, Mr. Alton, Mr. Chairman, board, fellow Dare County citizens, Mr. Creef. As you know, my name is Justin Bateman. I'm the precinct chair from Wanchese to the Dare County Republican Party and Dare County Board of Education District 1 candidate. I hate that I have to write these things out because I always forget things, but here we go. Normally, when I show up to these meetings, I'm spitting fire at y'all in some way, shape, or form. It's happened before. But today, I got a little bit of a different agenda. Today, I'm here as an everyday citizen speaking on your defense to the latest information that's been passed around the county regarding the money spent in the world of affordable housing. So cameras, wherever they are. One thing I learned in school, probably in the 5th grade, was to do my own research and homework on whatever subject I desired to know more about. Well, I've begun doing my own reading and research on some of these specific matters that have been discussed in local publications. I spent part of my Easter Sunday sitting with my daddy, reading and talking about the money that's going out. Now, I printed out the articles that I read, one from the Virginian Pilot, one from the Outer Banks Voice. In one of them, the very first sentence, it says, $1 million in taxpayer funding has gone out. Yeah, it's tax money, but it's money from Mecklenburg County, it's money from Wake County, it's money from New Hanover County, and it's money from Dare County. The way I interpreted it when I first read it was, oh, that's all Dare County money. And I'm sure a lot of other people did the same thing. It is state money, not just Dare County money that came out that is being spent. It doesn't say that in the publication, though. It just says taxpayer money. That's all it says. These publications also had some communication with Mr. Alton, got some quotes from him. They tried to reach out to Mr. Hennessy and his partners with no such luck. Not one of these publications, not one of them, said calls or emails, quote, calls or emails to Chairman Woodard or other commissioners went unreturned or went unanswered. Did it? Didn't say that. I called Chairman Woodard yesterday, and within 15, 20 minutes, I had a call back. Anytime I've had any question about anything county government related, I've received an email or a call back from someone on this board. It's my understanding that only a handful of people actually reached out to our county commissioners with questions regarding what is being publicized, 2 of which were my dad and myself. I also did a little bit of reading on this $35 million grant from Raleigh. If people took the time to actually do their own homework, they would note that the grant is written in such a way that only 2 companies qualified for any of the money being paid out for services. Those were Wood Cooper and Coastal Affordable Housing. Where's Wood Cooper? Yeah, Coastal Affordable Housing, that's the only one that's left. Yeah, Jordan Hennessy is in line to get some of this money, but from my research, no other partner involved in this project lives or has property in Dare County. The bottom line is this. This is for everybody in this room, and this is for anybody watching online. Do your homework and your own research. You might see some things that aren't being discussed and can disprove or widen the view of things that are being said. What I've discovered is these folks sitting in front of me, their hands are tied. And according to the way the grant was written, they have to pay this money out this specific way. They can't do anything about it. If you want to get upset with someone, get upset with your elected officials in Raleigh. They're the ones that wrote this up this way, not our locally elected officials. Does anybody know how long that House Bill 259 is on a PDF format? 625 pages. And I took the time to find the 24.8 statute that talks about Dare County. I ain't got much time. I'm proud to say that I stand up here today and support each and every one of you for sitting on this board and will continue to stand up for you. To the people in this room today and watching online, again, I say, do your homework, read and research, speak directly with your county commissioners, call them, email them, or do both. They will talk to you. I know from experience. Again, I thank you all very much for everything you do and continue to do for our county. God bless you all, and thank you again.
Thank you, Justin.
Next is Katie Morgan.
Welcome, Ms. Morgan.
All right. Hey, thanks. All right. I'm happy to hear about the special meeting next week. I would like to note that at the last Housing Task Force meeting, I was the only one that said that y'all should give the money back. Interestingly enough, I was met with immediate defensiveness with my comment, but I still stand strong. I do want to note that how the contract is written, Jordan Hennessy will still get $5 million even if we give the money back. And in response to what Mr. Bateman just said, the way the RFQ was written by the county for who had to bid on this job, one of the qualifiers that disqualified most people was they had to have been in a contract with a municipality that had had a public-private partnership with a forgivable loan, which really takes down who could have bid for that. Anyways, going back into what I was going to say, the proof that Jordan Hennessy is behind developing and revising the legislation for the House Bill 259 is so clearly stated in the receipts associated with the latest invoice given to Dare County by his Coastal Affordable Housing LLC. In a receipt from one of his lawyers, Bandini Law, on June 19, 2023, the memo says they spoke regarding reviewing and revising legislation, noting correspondence and telephone call with Jordan regarding legislation. In another receipt from Bandini Law on September 22nd, 2023, the memo says telephone call with Marion and Jordan regarding zoning legislation. Aren't all 6 of Dare County's towns in a lawsuit against the state over this exact legislation? This revelation is significant. Shouldn't our county leaders be taking a firm stance against collaborating with individuals who are actively attempting to undermine Dare County's citizens' rights through their own agenda-driven legislation? The situation appears straightforward to me, yet we continue to portray Jordan Hennessy in a positive light while our county leadership allows him to direct taxpayer dollars directly into his own pocket. Paying this invoice without addressing the crucial information contained in the receipts regarding Jordan Hennessy's involvement in the legislation is a disservice to our community. It's your responsibility to be transparent with the citizens of Dare County. We deserve to know that the housing company contracted by Dare County officials is also intricately involved in the legislation that undermines the rights of both the towns within Dare County and its residents. The fault of how this is playing out lies directly on the Dare County Commissioners and the county attorney/manager. Regarding the county attorney/manager situation, it's concerning how one individual has been allowed to simultaneously hold both roles for such an extended period of time. I find it incomprehensible and fundamentally conflicting that such a situation is not perceived as a blatant conflict of interest. Ideally, I'd expect my manager to generate ideas independently, allowing my attorney to provide guidance devoid of any influence or bias. I found out that our county attorney manager makes $269,544 without including his county benefits and retirement plan. I was informed that his compensation is determined by the Board of Commissioners. Mr. Outen has served in this capacity for the past 15 years. Recently, I requested a breakdown of his compensation for his roles as both county attorney and county manager. However, I was informed that there is no distinction in the job titles anymore, making it impossible to provide such information. Additionally, I unearthed that both the county manager and the county attorney positions are appointments, signifying that your Board of Commissioners, guided by Chairman Commissioner Bob Woodard, has endorsed this structure throughout his tenure. While Mr. Outen has held his position longer, Commissioner Woodard and Mr. Outen have collaborated on agreements for approximately 12 years. I have not spoken to anyone anywhere that thinks this type of situation is healthy for any kind of county government. In conclusion, I urge the board to transparently inform the public that Jordan Hennessy is the individual behind the Miss Katie Drudge and Coastal Affordable Housing LLC playing a significant role in the passage of the House Bill 259. Furthermore, I implore the board to deeply consider the implications of consolidating power in a single individual, particularly over an extended period of time in the dual capacity of manager and attorney. It's essential to evaluate the true healthiness of such a concentration of authority. I could delve deeper into this topic, but unfortunately, time constraints limit me to just 5 minutes. If there happens to be a response period at the conclusion of this meeting akin to what the commissioners conducted last month, in an attempt to undermine my remarks, I want to affirm that I have diligently conducted my research within the allotted time. I present as much information as possible. I can confidently assert that my statements are well-founded, and I am open to discussing further with anyone interested in connecting. Thank you.
Next is Paul Alton.
Good morning.
What was the name, Bobby?
Paul Alton. I didn't know there were any other Altons.
Oh, I ran into quite a few down here, especially in the First Bank. Paul Otten, I'm from Rodanthe, North Carolina, and what I want to address is item number 8 on your agenda. I only had two comments on it. I would, part of it is the address. I would rather have it addressed as Highway 12 like it was at one time. And the other part is the access to it. Instead of coming off Midget's Mobile Court, I think it should come off next to off of 12 instead of straight off of Midget's Mobile Court. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
And next is Catherine Fagan.
Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you, Commissioners. There is a proposal for a resolution to close the street on, and I submitted an affidavit along with that yesterday. I don't know if you all got it. Okay. First of all, there are several issues with closing the street. First of all, how could the Evans Trust actually sell a road to begin with? There is a letter that I think has been passed around to all of you that has misinformation in it. The stormwater management is primarily being handled further down the street, not at the top of Airport Road. Water flows downhill, and the area where 115 Airport Road in the corner, they said that the information they gave you with why the lawsuit was dismissed is incorrect. The point was that it was an adverse possession lawsuit, and you cannot adversely possess county property. So if they are maintaining that it's county property, then this street can be closed. So the statute. So in reviewing the statute on this matter, the biggest one is ingress and egress. There are at least 4 or 5 ways to get to that subdivision behind Airport Road. The initial plans just show that they were going to pave Culpeper Road, which is further down Airport, almost to Daphne Lane, if you all know where that is. And they have several other streets, paper streets, that they have closed to the public, and I think those are supposed to be used for fire lanes. I'm not sure. But there's no impediment if this road is closed. There's no impediment to any utilities. At this point in time, as I understand it, and talking to the power company, they're going down the next paper street. But nevertheless, even if they closed it, they could acquire an easement to use it. I mean, the utility can come in, everything's supposed to be underground, put it underground underneath where Roosevelt Street is, and you have your utilities. So closing the street is not an impediment to that. There are benefits to closing the street. The speed limit on Airport Road is 35 miles per hour. I live at 115, which is the first house behind the church. I swear, people turn that corner trying to see if their cars can get from 0 to 60 before they even get to my house. There are several driveways. There's one by the church, then there's one, my driveway and the one across the street from me, then there's Roosevelt Street. You're stopping the flow of traffic by having so many stops, and I think that is a problem. When I first voiced the objection to this subdivision behind me a while ago, I'm sure you guys probably remember, I was told that my objection was NIMBY. It is not. That's one, but that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that that was part of the bird migratory path. That's a transnational migratory path for birds. I don't even know how we have the right to take it down. But that was one of my big objections. Also the flooding, that was going to be a problem. And the heat, because now behind my house, it's black asphalt. That's a lot of heat. So we've lost animal habitat. We've lost the forest for the transmigration. in the last, since this has gone up, I have planted at least 50 more trees on my property to try and compensate for the trees that were taken down, which of course I can't do, but I can do what I can do, and that's it. The tree behind me, I mean, the street behind me is Shady Pines, which is all black asphalt. I've been trying to plant trees along it and to one, stop some of the noise in the front, and then also from the back to try and cool that. Because it used to be when the forest was there that I could be in my backyard and it could be 90+ degrees and it was comfortable because of the shade. That's no longer accurate. I would ask that this street be closed, not just for me, but I think it's important. Oh, the other issue with closing the street is my next door neighbor who signed the affidavit, and I think her husband might be here. They have a child with hearing disability. And if that were to become a street, that's very much a safety problem for them. I mean, that's a huge issue. And she came over, I was not going to mention that because I know they're very private about it. But she came over yesterday afternoon and expressed that to me, that if I thought it might help to mention it. So I am. So thank you for your time, and I hope you look at this closely. It's not a one-way thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Anyone else like to speak at public comment this morning? Anybody else? Anybody in Buxton?
No comment for Buxton.
That, Mr. Chairman, we close the public comment and we move to item 4A, and Superintendent Dave Halleck is here.
Morning.
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 Thank you, Dave, for being with us this morning.
Chairman Woodard, thank you for the invitation, and nice to see all of you. We ready, Pam?
We're ready.
All right. Before we start, I just want to thank the Dare County Department of Health and Human Services, particularly Dr. Davies, who's still here, and also Drew Pearson from Emergency Management. They have been with us since we first had observations of petroleum at the Old Navy site in Buxton, which I'll talk about today, and have worked with us tirelessly on evaluating public health and other public hazards there, and we really appreciate the partnership. So with that, I'm going to just start with a little bit of history about this site. But before I do that, I want to tell you who is involved in this situation from the federal government. The first agency involved is the National Park Service. We own the land here. And as you'll find out in a few moments, we have owned this land all along, provided it to the United States military for use. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. The Army Corps of Engineers is involved. They restore DOD, which are Department of Defense sites that were used before 1986 under the formerly used Defense Site Program. You might have heard that comment this morning, FUDS. FUDS stands for Formerly Used Defense Site. Coast Guard Sector North Carolina is the agency that responds to pollution events. You might have heard some questions earlier about the Environmental Protection Agency. If there is a release of pollution in the United States of America, you're supposed to call a number, and that is for the National Response Center. If you're in an inland county in the United States, the EPA responds. If you're in a coastal county, the Coast Guard responds. Sector North Carolina is the group that works with us. They work on boat groundings and other hazardous substances in the coastal area, and they have been very involved in this situation. And finally, another agency that's involved is the Coast Guard's Civil Engineering Unit. They're in Cleveland. They manage Coast Guard infrastructure and the CERCLA process. CERCLA is the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act for non-petroleum contamination, which may be also present at this site. So let's talk a little bit about history here. Obviously, we're up here in Manio on Roanoke Island right now. The site we're going to talk about today is in Buxton. In 1953, the Secretary of Interior established Cape Hatteras National Seashore. Within a couple years of that establishment, we were already in the works with an agreement. Actually, it was what's called a special use permit
with the Navy to develop Naval Station Cape Hatteras that was issued under a permit. This was for surveilling foreign activity off our coast. I can't confirm this, but all accounts seem to indicate that the first detection of a diesel-powered Soviet submarine occurred from this site, just a stone's throw from the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. The station was used by the Navy until 1982, and as they were departing, the United States Coast Guard said, we would also like a facility in eastern North Carolina. This is a prime location for an administrative facility. They decided to adaptively reuse the large majority of buildings that the Navy had built at this site for the purposes of their operations. They used that with permission from the National Park Service under what's called an MOU, or a Memorandum of Understanding, and a General Agreement. That occurred until about 2010. In the middle of the time that they were working there, the Army Corps of Engineers came in and did some work. And in 1998, they established this site as a formally used defense site for the purposes of remediating contamination from the Navy. And now we're going to talk about current conditions, 2023-24. Debris and strong odors of petroleum and occasional sheens from petroleum have been observed at this site. So this is an aerial. A lot of the photographs I'm going to show you today are from the beach right in front of it. If you've been down there, it's about a 50-acre site. All of the buildings have been removed. Some of the infrastructure in the ground apparently has not. So this was a very serious, large facility. This is a photograph looking towards the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse before it was moved in 1999. You can see just how close it was to that lighthouse. There were many, many buildings on this site. It's been reported that over 100 people came to work here every day. A lot of activity here. This is a view from the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse looking north. And there's actually a building. It's to the right. There are two buildings that are closest to the ocean here. The one on the south side, closest to the lighthouse, was a club for officers to go. It was a recreation club, or a nightclub, basically. And the building that is just to the north of there is a building called Building 19. We're going to be talking about that a lot as I go through this presentation. This is an aerial view of the area. By the way, this picture, which was from 1975, was during a time where the jetties were being repaired. You can actually see the middle jetty there. There are 3 jetties. You probably get a lot of questions about the jetties that are near the lighthouse there. They were installed by the United States Navy for the purposes of protecting this naval facility, starting in 1969 and finishing in the mid-70s. So what have we seen since September 1st? On September 1st, I got text messages and phone calls that this place smelled like petroleum, like diesel, and that there was debris all over the beach. This was a result of some large swells that came in from offshore from some hurricanes. Obviously, we did not have a direct impact from hurricanes, but anybody that lives here knows that you can have a hurricane or a tropical storm hundreds of miles off the shore, and the big, powerful, long period swells can directly impact the beaches. And that's what we started seeing. We started seeing all these steel pipes, concrete rubble, massive chunks of concrete and steel, concrete blocks that appear to be the foundation of a wastewater tank, septic drain field parts falling out of the dune onto the beach, large amounts of peat soil, and this is important as well. This peat soil, this organic soil, is what you might find if you were to walk into the Sound from Highway 12 anywhere on Hatteras Island. As you get into that salt marsh, there's a lot of organic, muddy material in there. That oftentimes actually is exposed and eroded out onto the beach. That's because our areas that are currently Atlantic-facing beachfront used to be Sound front on Pamlico Sound thousands of years ago. So we started finding these chunks of soil that was clearly contaminated with petroleum. And the way that we know that is we had some of them tested and they smelled like diesel. We also started seeing the outline of a very large building. This is Building 19. It was also known as the Terminal Building. If you notice a large cable from this building that appears to be going into the water, that is a hydrophone cable. It's a cable that was used for listening for foreign activity off the coast. We don't know how far it went into the Atlantic Ocean. We know that some other sites actually had cables that went out more than 100 miles into the Atlantic Ocean. This is a thick steel cable about this big around, and it is still present. We had no idea it was here before September 1st and this fall. That is the footer that supported the foundation and the rest of the walls of the building. This is a very large building. You can actually see the cable coming out of that big chunk of concrete. This building is called a cable vault. As the name implies, this is where the cable came out of the building and went out into the ocean. We also started finding lots of pipes, including pipes that appeared to be pipes that were used for moving some form of petroleum, whether it was a fuel distribution system or pipes simply for heating oil or other types of oil that might have supplied boilers for these buildings. I'm going to show you this video right here, just to give you an idea of what this site actually looks like. This video was taken last week, right before the public meeting that we held in Buxton. Give you a sense of things. We're just about 200 feet down from the southernmost house in the village of Buxton. And you're starting to see chunks of debris, which is from the old naval structures at the site. As we continue down, you see the northern portion of Building 19, or the terminal building. You see the first cable vault there, which is where one of the cables came out of. You also see lots of other debris, and you see a massive concrete pad there, which was actually the foundation for a large antenna. If you were to walk on the ground this day, it would have been much more dramatic than this, but this gives you a feel for the site. And I bring this up because Chairman Woodard mentioned earlier, Cape Hatteras Seashore is 75 miles long from South Nags Head to the tip of Ocracoke Island. It is our understanding, based on what we've seen, that this situation is only affecting a small area of land in front of the old military site. So on September 1st, we called the Coast Guard when we got reports from the public, and they took a sample, and the first sample came back as positive for petroleum hydrocarbons. They took another sample on September 8th, and that also came back as characteristic of light fuel oil and lubricating oil. The Army Corps of Engineers also came down. We'll talk about that in a moment. As I said before, this is a formally used defense site that they established for the purposes of remediating petroleum contamination. This dark material you see on the beach here is not oil. It is peat soil. It's historic marsh soil or sediment. As a matter of fact, you can actually see old trees from thousands of years ago that were part of the marsh that are now exposed on the beach. You also see a cable and that cable vault. And they took a chunk of that soil right from that area. It came back at 36,000 milligrams per kilogram total petroleum hydrocarbons, diesel range organic. What does that mean? It means petroleum that's characteristic of the types of fuel that's out there, of the family of diesel fuels as opposed to gasoline. Okay. If you're curious to know what 36,000 milligrams per kilograms means relative to the state's NCDEQ action level, it's 360 times higher. The action level is 100 milligrams per kilogram, or parts per million in North Carolina. This is not surprising that we are seeing this. We have learned this since September 1st. What you're seeing here is the Army Corps of Engineers report from 2004. I believe it was finalized in 2005. All of those dashed marks on, or those dashed polygons here, are areas where the Army removed petroleum contaminated sediment due to significant quantities of fuel or petroleum that spilled or leaked at this site when the Navy was here between 1956 and 1982. Today, that blue line represents about where the high tide or the mid-tide line goes to. There are existing Army Corps of Engineers groundwater monitoring wells here because the groundwater continues to have signs of contamination in it. The areas of contaminated soil that we have been finding are right over this area where petroleum contamination was historically removed. And by the way, this is the location of historic Building 19, and apparently the location where there was a fuel pipeline that went out into this area. For your information, by March of 2004, the Army Corps of Engineers removed 4,006 tons, or 22,707 cubic yards of petroleum contaminated sediment. The report that we were able to find upon finding this these odors of petroleum this fall indicates that not all petroleum contamination was removed due to the presence of roadways and other infrastructure based on what we read in this report. And to date, we are unaware that that petroleum contamination was removed. Why is this happening? You see a photograph here of this same site. By the way, look at that curve in the road and look at the distance from that curve to the water line. This is building 19. And look at the area today. That's building 19 now. Those are the foundation areas. They're hard to see with the waves here. And you can now see the distance between the curve in the road and the ocean. Areas that were contaminated before are now being exposed to the beachfront, to the ocean due to erosion. You can also see from this photograph a 1958 shoreline and 73 shoreline. And now the shoreline is back where that building is, building 19. So interestingly, the Army Corps of Engineers came into building 19, where you saw that foundation and all that cable material in 1985, and implemented a building demolition project to remove it, including the foundations and utilities associated with the building. It appears today that not all of the materials were actually removed. And interestingly, a lot of the petroleum contamination that we're seeing is right in or to the south of that building. Again, these are locations that were known to be contaminated with petroleum. In February of 2001, we started getting more reports of sheen in the water. There were reports of surfers that may have come out of the water. They did not come into this area because, well, we hope they didn't. This area has been closed since the first day that odors were observed. They came out of the water saying that they smelled like petroleum, and our rangers agreed that it smelled like there was some type of oil on their wetsuits and perhaps in their hair. This is just downstream from this area. Our staff went out on February 1st and found an old pipe coming out of the beach in this exact same area. And we sampled that. We scraped material from outside of it, sent it to a licensed laboratory in North Carolina, and that came back positive for petroleum hydrocarbons. So what I'm letting you know is there appears to be unremediated petroleum contaminated sediment that remains in this area. And there are also maybe some petroleum infrastructure that continues to have some contamination inside of it. We don't know if these are all of the sources. I'm just sharing with you what we know. Of all the samples that were taken by the Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Park Service, whether they have been organic soil, sand soil samples, or groundwater temporary wells, or even a shovel pit test that the Corps did, they have all come back as positive for petroleum hydrocarbons. So it appears clear that this site continues to have petroleum contamination at it. This has generated a tremendous amount of concern, understandably, from me, my staff, the National Park Service, and the local community. These are just little things from social media of newspapers and others telling folks to avoid the area. This is very concerning. Dr. Beach, that's Dr. Stephen Leatherman from Florida International University, I believe, has ranked this one of the best beaches in the United States. And there's been a lot of negative media attention about this. This is a photograph of this site just from last week, from a couple days before we had the public meeting, showing all that naval infrastructure. In addition to the Army Corps of Engineers' work to remediate the Navy's contamination at this site, I mentioned that the United States Coast Guard utilized the site from 1984 to 2010. When they left, they took some soil samples indicating that there may be some other non-petroleum contaminants at the site. Since they left in 2010, we have been requesting that they perform a more detailed phase 2 environmental study to delineate the extent and magnitude of those non-petroleum contaminants. And they have come through on that. Last summer, they began a study. All of these sites here, all these blue dots, are actually core sampling sites where they have taken deep core samples and they are analyzing those samples for other contaminants. And they've told us they expect a report back in June. Again, I want to thank Dare County Department of Health and Human Services. They helped us now twice issue a precautionary public health advisory, warning the public to stay out of the water in this area. We have continued to keep the site closed, and we have an informational webpage at go.nps.gov Buxton Beach. You're probably wondering, so what? What is everybody doing about this? We are continuing to have weekly meetings with the Army Corps of Engineers, urging them to collect as much information as they need to collect to begin some form of remediation at the site. We have also had almost daily communications with the Coast Guard since this has happened, and they come down every time we report observations of petroleum. Senior leaders from the Coast Guard, the National Park Service, and the Army Corps of Engineers have also been meeting every 2 weeks. I am not aware of a plan as of today to remediate this problem. All I can tell you is I'm continuing to work hard on advocating for that, and I will be sure to provide you with updates of anything that I hear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave. We really appreciate you sharing that info with us like you did from last week. Appreciate it very much.
My pleasure. Any questions, Chairman
Any
Woodard?
questions for Dave at this point?
Really thorough.
Very good.
Very thorough.
All right.
Thank you.
We're going to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
call the Dare County Board of Commissioners back to order and turn it over to the county manager.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, we're on item 5 on the agenda, and Lee Brinkley and Molly McGinnis are here. They have a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month.
And you get prizes.
Welcome, ladies.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Molly McGinnis. I'm the Family Support Services Coordinator with Children Youth Partnership for Dare County. And I am here today with Lee Brinkley, the Dare County Department of Health and Human Services Family Support Supervisor, to talk to you guys about child abuse prevention. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month for Dare County. And the Dare County Health and Human Services Department and Children and Youth Partnership for Dare County, CYP, are working together to spread awareness and encourage the community members to participate in prevention. This year's theme across North Carolina is Building a Hopeful Future Together, emphasizing the responsibility that we all share in supporting families and providing nurturing environments for our children. To kick off the month, we would like to spread the word by asking people in our community to participate in Wear Blue Day on Friday, April 5th, 2024. I guess I need to find more blue. We encourage the community to wear blue and take pictures to share with us on social media. During the month of April, there are 3 different child abuse prevention displays throughout Dare County. One location is at the KDH Fire Department, the other is at the COA campus in Manio, and the other at the Fesden Center in Buxton. As you can see, there are blue pinwheels at your desk. This is another way we show our support for Child Abuse Prevention Month. Community members have an opportunity to help spread awareness by participating in the Pinwheels for Prevention campaign. Pinwheels for Prevention is where you plant a pinwheel garden and display a Pinwheels for Prevention yard sign. Pinwheels and yard signs are available at the CYP office while supplies last. Yard sign. According to Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina, protective factors proven to prevent child abuse and neglect include parental resilience, social and emotional competence of children, parenting knowledge of child and development and parenting skills, concrete support for parents, and social connections. I encourage parents to look at the resources available at Children Youth Partnership and register for some of the free parenting programs that we offer. Another resource is the Family Services Unit at Dare County Social Services. This program is available to families with at least one child under 18 years of age and focuses on increasing family stability, strengthening family relationships, and identifying support systems. Please remember, if someone suspects child abuse, neglect, or dependency, they can call social services and ask to speak to a Child Protective Services social worker. For more information on Child Abuse Prevention Month and how members of the community can take part in it, please visit preventchildabusenc.org. We ask the commissioners today to proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Thank you.
All right, we have a proclamation you'd like for us to pass, correct?
Yes.
County manager, would you read that proclamation?
Sure. Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. Whereas all children deserve to have a safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community. Whereas communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting, and child development and resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children, ensuring all children grow to their full potential. Whereas the effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human services agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Therefore, we, the Dare County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Dare County and call upon all citizens to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. This is the second day of April 2024.
Motion to adopt. There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to adopt the April 2024 proclamation as presented, and it's been seconded by the Vice Chair. Any further comments? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you so much, ladies, for what you do. Appreciate it.
Chairman Woodard?
Yes, ma'am.
Caitlin is organizing for this building for employees that work in this building to wear blue on Friday.
Oh, great.
And she's coordinating a photograph for employees to wearing blue to meet in the lobby, so we can post that on our social media.
Super.
So
Did you hear that?
just wanted to mention that.
Great.
Yeah.
Very good. County Manager.
That brings us to item 6 on the agenda. We have Phil Cooper and Stephanie Baker here for the National Alliance for Mental Health. They have a presentation for you.
Welcome this morning, Stephanie, Phil.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to be here this morning. First off, we are NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Outer Banks. It's a new affiliate that my wife and I and several others have established here on the Outer Banks. And we're not quite fully in operation yet, but we're getting there. So what I'd like to start out with this morning is just some statistics. Where's it? Okay, there we go. The three highlighted bullet points I want to share with you is that 2022 OBX Health Assessment, the mental health and substance abuse were number 1 and number 3 in priority. And there were 307.6 average yearly number of ER visits for behavioral health concerns between 2017 and 2021. And then at the last point, between 2019 and 2020, the number of mobile crisis calls increased 47.7% for youth and 216.67% for young adults age 19 to 23. I know this is going to be hard to read, so I just want to point out some of the bigger items. 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year, and almost 1.5 million adults in North Carolina have a mental health condition. And then with high schools, students with depression are more than 2 times more likely to drop out than their peers that don't have depression. It says 53.2% of North Carolinians aged 12 to 17 have depression, did not receive any care in the last year. And that's vital. We need to provide care for our young people. So NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, started in 1979, 45 years ago, by moms just sitting around a kitchen table. Now in 2024, it's the largest national nonprofit dedicated to improving the quality of life for people with mental illness and their families. So NAMI's vision, we as NAMI envision a world where all people are affected, who are affected by mental illness, live healthy, fulfilling lives, supported by a community that cares. Maybe not the future that we as parents or guardians of our children envisioned, but something meaningful that they can do. And NAMI's mission provides advocacy, education, and support and public awareness for all these individuals and families that suffer as part of their family members having mental illness. And I want to point out that we're not coming here to take over at all. We're here to provide support, education, and public awareness. And the 5 NAMI values that we support are hope, which is probably the most important thing because so many parents, guardians of their loved ones, sometimes don't know where to turn because of their loved one having mental illness. And so hope is very important. Also inclusion for all ethnic backgrounds. We also offer empowerment to them, and especially compassion and fairness. So NAMI OBX began with an observation that we made probably about 5 years ago. My wife, Kathy, and I came to the Outer Banks on vacation probably beginning in 2002 or 3. Always loved coming here, and we decided to come and live here full time a few years ago. And we made this observation that there wasn't a NAMI affiliate on the Outer Banks, and we saw that there was a need. So we were really benefited from the NAMI support groups and education resources. To give you a little bit of background into our son, James, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2005. The doctor said he was high functioning. And in my mind, that meant he could be fixed. You know, as a guy, that's what you do. You fix things. We couldn't fix that. He was on medication for about 12 years. In 2017, he said, you know, I'm feeling so much better. I don't need this medication. So he moved back from LA, lived with us in Greensboro, North Carolina. He was up and down probably for the next year or so. And we got to the point where he was destroying things in the house. You know, he was running away. He was all kinds, manner of things. He was yelling at us, you know, abusing us really. And so we had to have him committed. So that was kind of the downhill slide in 2019. So we had him committed. Worst day of my life to have the police officers come over and take him away. And so that night we found a NAMI affiliate in Guilford County, North Carolina. And we went and they offered us support at their support group. They were just beginning an education program, a family-to-family class. And we bought in and we found the support and the resources that we really needed. So we've just recently received our official NC State affiliate approval in February of 2024, and we are expecting our national approval later this month. And we hope to begin our support groups and education classes in May of this year. So we're going to start with April and May. We're going to have some town hall presentations to the community. Our big fundraiser, we're planning to do that at Aviation Park on May 18th. And then we're going to start up those family support meetings. In June and August, we're hoping to work with the school districts to plan for NAMI. My wife's a former teacher, so she has a good inroad to that. And then in September, we're going to plan to teach the 8-week family-to-family education classes. And then in September through December of this year, we plan to make additional presentations to Dare, Currituck High schools. Now in 2024, NAMI OBX plans to begin offering as many of these classes, the education classes and support groups, as we could possibly do. The first one of them I mentioned was a family-to-family, which is an educational program. It's directed toward those that support their loved ones with mental illness, whether it's a parent, whether it's a sibling, you know, whether it's grandparents, and whether it's a child taking care of their own parents with a mental illness. But it gives them the tools they need to communicate more effectively, you know, with their loved ones. And there's NAMI peer-to-peer and NAMI basics. Now, NAMI basics is a 6-session education program. It says for parents and caregivers and on all those who provide care for youth ages 22 and under that are experiencing serious mental health issues. And a lot of times we don't think that depression, anxiety may be a serious health issue, but they are. It's just not the ones you may think about, like schizophrenia and bipolar. And I just mentioned about the NAMI family previously, but this is a wonderful course that, you know, really helps the families deal with the individuals with mental health concerns. And then there's a NAMI peer-to-peer, which is a free 8-week educational program for the people that are actually adults that are suffering with mental health conditions to understand, you know, how they can deal with themselves and their recoveries. And then we have family support groups, family support group and the recovery support group. Now, the family support group is what I talked about earlier. And it really is, it's people that are families that are trying to understand, their loved one and what's going on. And I think one of the most important pieces, in addition to the resources, is the connection, because you don't. Everybody feels, when you have cancer, for instance, or heart disease, people will bring over, they'll call up and say, "What can I do to help?" When somebody has a mental illness, nobody says that. They said, "I don't want to deal with this." So that's what's so important about the family support group, is to let families know that they're not alone and that there's people out there that are suffering just like they are. And then there's where did I go? Oh, then the NAMI Connection Recovery Group is a peer-led support group for adults who have a mental health condition. And this gives people a safe place to say that I'm not the only one that's sick, that there's others like me, and how people have navigated their recoveries. Now, there's also a 90-minute educational program called Family and Friends, where participants learn about their mental health diagnosis, how they can get treatment, recovery. We're not, of course, since it's all, peer-led, this is not something that, we're not health professionals. We don't have a lot of knowledge, but we have experience. We have lived experience. And this helps them understand what the long-term issues are going to be. Because a lot of times with cancer, you can fix that. You can go through a regimen to fix, but mental illness is a lifelong process, and that's a huge issue. Okay, and we're also planning to do an in-school presentation designed to teach middle and high school students, staff, and families about reducing stigma and the signs and symptoms of mental illness. A lot of times the kids are ostracized for a number of reasons, the bullying and all that stuff. But there's a certain level of stigma too with people with mental illness. And so we want to open this up so the kids can talk, that they can end the silence, from having to be kind of sheltered away, and people can speak openly about these issues. Now, the next two programs, one is for the African American communities to promote mental health and to, help them heal as a community. And then the next one is for the Hispanic community. And this is because obviously we have a large Hispanic community, in the Outer Banks. And this is to get the word out and to know that they are not alone. Next slide is the crisis intervention training. This is something that's been very effective in Guilford County. We've been very successful teaching this class. It's a 40-hour class for police officers, firefighters, EMS people to, when you come to somebody that has a mental illness, if you haven't been trained how to react, you don't know. I've told officers before, I said, don't come in with guns blazing. That's the wrong way to come about that situation. My son could have been shot 5 or 6 different times because he attacked an officer. If these men and women hadn't been trained how to handle that, it could have had a very negative connotation for him. So now we get to how can you help? First, we can, everyone can join NAMI OBX. Currently, our affiliate hasn't been totally approved by the NAMI National. but it should be approved by mid-April. So you can sign up. You can also volunteer. In May, on May 18th, we have NAMI walks, which is a 5-kilometer walk. And if you and your organizations can participate in that, that'd be great. You can invite a presenter to your group, your church group, your community meeting, and you can also partner with NAMI, which there's a number of ways to do that. Corporate and foundation supporters, influencer, ambassadors and supporters, community partners, resource and information collaborators, and becoming a partner. So connect with us. NAMI OBX Steering Committee. Chairs, my wife and I are co-chairing this. Vice Chair is Dr. Richard Martin. The Secretary is Stephanie Baker here. The Treasurer is Angela Marino, and our at-large members are Brandy Rowden and Sandy Martin. So now you can connect with us. This is, of course, pending the affiliate approval from NAMI National. Those will be our contact information. And the most important thing for our care, those that care for our loved ones with mental health disorders, you are not alone. And that's what we have to emphasize over and over again. You are not alone. There's other people in the community that are suffering too. My pain is not more than your pain. We all suffer together, and we need to join together and support one another and love one another. Now I'd like to turn the floor over to Stephanie Baker for her proclamation.
Well, actually, before I read the proclamation, I know, thank you again, Chairman and Commissioners, for having us here. I know a lot of times I've been before you to speak on behalf of some issue, something that has affected me personally and then affected so many of our community, and I get very impassioned. And through my last position, I was introduced to Dr. Richard Martin and others, and I decided to get involved because I think it's important for you to know that we're talking about lived experience. I moved here with my husband in 2007. We had a 1.5-year-old at the time boy. I had my second baby at the hospital here in 2008, sorry. And my children right now, 2 boys, are 15 and 18 years old. Ever since my 18-year-old was about 6, we've been in and out of counseling for mental health issues with my children. When my younger one, who is in all gifted classes, you've seen him perform at Kids Fest, Outrageous. He's a super talented musician. He went down to Wilmington recently on behalf of First Flight High School. He was one of 8 kids to perform. He was a Boy Scout. He plays lacrosse. At the end of 4th grade, that child had a cry for help. And at that time, I didn't bring him to the hospital, but we immediately got help. Our psychiatrist actually is all the way in Virginia Beach. The statistics we were reading earlier about the mobile health crisis calls, the hospital, it was November of 2020, right before Thanksgiving, my incredibly talented 12-year-old at the time attempted suicide. He put a cord around his neck and tried to jump off the loft bed. And luckily, my now 18-year-old got there before I did and held him as I climbed up the loft and untied him and called the mobile crisis center and took him to the hospital, where he spent 2 days in the ER. We spent 2 days in the ER. No laces, no nothing. Somebody had to be in that room constantly waiting for a bed. 2 days during COVID in the ER. So that was on a Saturday. Monday, a bed opened up.
My 12-year-old was escorted by the resource officers of Dare County, who I have such respect for because they treated him with such care and respect and followed him after when he returned. He was taken from here to Greensboro, to the only place that had a bed, and he was there for 14 days during COVID without me. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is, to this day, 6 months later, my husband died suddenly of a heart attack, so switched to more trauma, constant trauma in our lives. Last year, my insurance picked up none of the mental health care. All three of us are going. It was almost $5,000 out of pocket. I've switched insurances this year, but yeah. This program, I actually did the education course to become a peer support person for the family to family, because a lot of times, and this is the first time I've spoken openly, and my family of friends, if anybody sees this, might be like, oh my gosh, but this is such an important thing. Right now, my 18-year-old's about to graduate from high school, and he's lost. And he's been accepted to 2 schools, and he was going to go to the military. He's just lost. And I worry for him. And the 15-year-old, I worry. He's a freshman, and things are really good until they're not. And so I think we are not trying to overstep Dare County Health. We are not trying to overstep the Board of Education and the educators, but to work together concurrently with them and really try to bring this to the light, because it's a dark subject and people don't want to recognize it. But in our society today, we feel like it's just so important to bring this forward and involve the community. So thank you for letting me share that. And with that, I will read the proclamation. Whereas in the United States, 1 in 5 adults experience a mental health condition, and 1 in 6 children between the ages of 6 and 17 also suffer from a treatable mental health disorder, such as depression, anxiety problems, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. Whereas 1,469,000 adults in North Carolina have a mental health condition, and 128,000 children between the ages of 12 to 17 in North Carolina have a diagnosis of depression. Whereas more than half the people in the United States and 452,000 North Carolinians living with a mental health condition did not receive any treatment in the last year. Whereas the most recent Dare County Community Health Needs Assessment shows that mental health and substance abuse were number 1 and 3 in priority to be addressed, and 21.6% of the citizens of Dare County surveyed noted that local mental health services need improvement. Whereas between 2019 and 2020, the mobile crisis unit calls in our community increased 47.7% for youth and 216.67% for young adults 19 to 25. Whereas NAMI is the largest national nonprofit dedicated to improving the quality of life for people with mental illness and their families, providing advocacy, education, support, and public awareness so all families affected by mental illness can build better lives. And whereas NAMI OBX has been approved by National as an affiliate to serve Dare, Currituck, Ocracoke, and provide support groups and educational classes following a structured model at no cost to participants in an effort to promote mental health wellness in our communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we as the Dare County Board of Commissioners of Dare County, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness Month.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by the Vice Chairman to approve the proclamation as presented. It was also seconded by Commissioner Bateman and Commissioner Bass Knight. Any further discussion? Hearing,
I've got one.
yes, sir,
Um,
Steve.
You say you have been approved for national?
We have not been approved yet for national,
Okay.
but we will be. We will be this
Because
month.
the resolution states that you are
Yes, I
approved by
know.
national.
No.
When this was written, we had gotten initial okay, and then they backed up and wanted us to change.
You have to provide some more documentation for them.
Okay. For us to approve this the way it's written, that means that we recognize them as a national affiliate, in which they're not. As of this day.
Yeah.
We can add.
We can add language, we can add language to the beginning of that whereas, pending approval, Steve.
Okay.
If that's.
That
okay
would be
with you guys.
great, yeah.
That'd be excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Need a motion for redoing that?
So move.
Yeah, the maker of the motion will recognize that, we'll change that language, and will the seconds as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the seconds will as well. Once again, any further, thank you for pointing that out.
I would like to say
Commissioner House.
something.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cooper, Ms. Baker, thank you for this presentation today. It's been enlightening, and it's been, I know Dr. Martin first mentioned this at a Saving Lives Task Force meeting. I don't know how many months ago. NAMI is not an easy thing to establish. I know there's a lot of them throughout the state, but we didn't have one here, and it's certainly needed. Y'all's efforts to step up and do this is recognized, and we certainly appreciate the hard work that you've put into it. It sounds like that the hard work that you've put into it is just a start, that's going to continue. And it's good to see that it's in capable hands. I'm glad to see that Ms. Martin is working continually with you in that regard. So thank you again for what you're doing here.
Thank you.
Those in favor of the amended motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those like sign, motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Bateman.
Stephanie, have you guys been to the Saving Lives Task Force meetings?
My kids, no, they have not.
Not your kids.
Yes.
You-
NAMI.
Uh-huh.
Philip,
Yeah, I've been, my wife's been.
yeah.
Okay, good.
I was present with my former position, but I haven't been back, but I'd like to attend as well.
'Cause
So,
This is so intertwined.
yeah.
Yes,
And-
absolutely.
And that's where
You gotta
actually,
give you more exposure.
that's where I first heard about it. So, yeah, at that meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
again,
you.
guys.
Attention, appreciate it.
Great work.
That brings us to item 7 on the agenda, Mr. Chairman. Lee Nettles is here from the Dare County Tourism Board to request your consent for an expenditure from their short-term residential fund line item 5160.
Lee, welcome this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners. We have just started April, but we're already thinking about July. We have the annual fireworks grants that were applied for. These are funded out of the restricted fund, which requires your consent, of course. They are set up as a matching grant with us being able to fund up to half of the expense. We received 4 applications, which is consistent with previous years. We had an application from the Avon Property Owners Association for $14,875. The town of Kill Devil Hills for $12,400. Town of Manio, $19,000. And the town of Nags Head, $13,750, bringing the total to $60,025. All of the applications were fully funded, and the Tourism Board approved these awards unanimously at its last meeting. So with that, I would like to request your consent on the expenditure or answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions of Lee?
Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to approve as presented.
Second.
Seconded by the Vice Chairman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Once
Appreciate
again, thank you for what you do. Y'all do great work, my friend.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 8 on the agenda. That's a quasi judicial hearing for a special use permit application 1-2024. And Morgan Potts from our planning department is here for that presentation. Mr. Chairman, everyone has been sworn as this is a quasi judicial
Okay.
hearing.
Good morning.
Good morning, y'all. How are you?
Fine.
I'm Morgan Potts, and we haven't formally met yet. I joined your crew in November as a staff planner, and I'm from Edenton, so I'm not a total dingbatter. So what I have for you all is consideration of a special use permit application. This special use permit application and site plan has been submitted by Derek Hinch and House Engineering. Rick House is here, right yonder, representing the applicant this morning. This is a proposed cluster home development. Long-term occupancy is critical to this. This is going to be 31 days or more. There will be 8 dwellings, 1,200 square foot. They meet all of the criteria outlined in the ordinance. The parcel is approximately 1.3 acres, and it exceeds the minimum lot size required for a cluster home development. The applicant, again, is proposing to construct 8 3-bedroom wood frame individual dwelling units on the parcel. They will be separated by 16 feet in width, which does slightly exceed the bare minimum. And as stated previously, the proposed design does meet the minimum requirements of the ordinance. The planning board heard this request previously, and they recommended approval. So if you have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes, sir.
Would the applicant consider an annual lease?
I think he would consider that for sure. He's doing I don't know if let me back up. 30 days is the minimum or that you can do in the ordinance, but you're saying an annual lease only. Is that what your question was in
Well,
there?
I have difficulty with what's defined in our zoning ordinance as long-term. And I intend on addressing that and bringing it back to our planning board and our boards because I have difficulty with that, saying that the use for residency purposes for a period of 31 days or more. To me, that's not long-term. I'm looking for long-term, minimum a year.
Okay. I could ask him, but it's written as it is today, I think is 30 days, 31 days.
That's correct. That's how it's written. But I'm asking if the applicant is willing to consider.
I'm sure he's willing.
long-term
I mean,
as
it's a
year
phone call
lease.
away. I can't answer that for him
Okay. Well,
today.
I understand that.
I can get back with you guys.
Okay.
It's not a problem
Anyone-
to ask him.
Anyone
I
else?
think he was under the impression it was going to be monthly. He doesn't want weekly. He wants people who are going to be working down there to live in these houses. That is the main force of, his reasoning is to create some lower income houses down there, some workforce housing too. So it just falls under the cluster home
I understand.
ordinance.
Understand. Commissioner Bateman.
I agree with you, and I'm behind that, but how about if someone who has signed a lease and it's a month, 30-day month lease for a year, could we not stipulate that at the same time? And so it'd still be a year, which fulfills Chairman Woodard's thing, but it allows someone like me, for instance, who has a month-to-month rentals that I do to people, just to get them out in case they don't pay their rent. On a month-to-month lease, it's a lot easier to get them out quicker. If you have to.
You can do
evict
whatever you want to do with respect to leases if the applicant consents. If the applicant does not consent, then you're bound by your statute.
Again, that language of the 31 days or longer, that's reflective of the North Carolina Building Code of transient versus non-transient. So that was the reasoning behind that, was consistency with
No, I
the
understand.
code.
I understand.
So,
Doesn't mean I'm comfortable with it.
yes, that's how the ordinance is written
Right.
now. So, I mean, that's why that condition's
Right.
placed in there, because that is our code at this point in time.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Jim Morgan and Noah, just hang tight. With respect to the public commenters Consideration to make it
I'm
a,
sorry. Before you all.
That's right, it's quasi-judicial, we got a
We've
request.
heard the presentation from our staff. I don't know if you have evidence that you need to put on from the applicant's side beyond what has been presented. Let me ask my questions and then see if there's anybody else to put on evidence, and we'll go from there. So does the applicant consent to the entry of all the file materials to the board as evidence in this hearing?
Yes.
And do you consent and agree to the testimony that you just heard from the planning staff?
Yes.
And do you consent to the terms and the conditions of the special use permit as it's now drafted?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone else that'd like to put on any evidence with regard to this matter? Seeing none, then we would close the evidentiary part, and now you can ask your questions.
Okay, I defer to Commissioner Couch.
why not make it an NC-12 address, and why not make the access off NC-12? Is it a money thing? I just want some insight. I thought he had a valid point.
The biggest thing was how close the two entrances would be on to 12. So we didn't want to have a traffic jam there, and we wanted for some reason, we wanted to go ahead and put the required right of way next to Midget Mobile Court right of way, because it's so small as it is now. We figured the two right of ways would end up be a better right of way and a less turning onto and off of 12. So we decided to go ahead and combine them. We have an option to come in off 12, also another drawing of that. This particular one I put in front of the planning board seemed to be the best design for our purposes and taking into account Midget Mobiles and not, is what is it, a 30-foot right of way or 20-foot right of way or something like that. And it would just clean up that entrance too, as well.
All right, safety as much as anything. I heard what I needed to hear.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Did I hear that you were exceeding the lot coverage or not exceeding?
No.
Not close, I don't think.
Okay.
Close, but not close.
It is a total of, I apologize, it is a total of 28% of lot coverage. The limitation is 30.
Yes, sir.
If you elect to move forward with this, and if you elect to move forward as you suggested, then in the motion to approve, include language that allows us to modify the special use permit to include that if the applicant will consent to it. Then we don't have to come back.
To include an annual lease.
If the applicant consents.
I mean, that's mine. I'd have to yield to my fellow commissioners if they agree. Is that something you?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that
I
too.
agree with that too.
That's nothing but a phone call and get back with you guys.
Understand.
Okay, so it's approved either way, but if the applicant chooses to include the 1 year limit, then we can modify it. You approve that modification as well.
Okay.
It's approved as 30 right now.
Correct.
All right.
Gotcha.
And I'll make that phone call today.
All right. Anything else? Anybody?
So we're not making it contingent upon him doing it for a year.
If the applicant does not consent to that, then you're bound by your statute. That's 31 days. That's what your
31,
ordinance
okay.
says.
We're bound
I
by
got
that.
it, okay.
Yeah. All
But
right.
we'd like to have that.
Yeah, we strongly
Pardon?
encourage
Like to
that.
have that.
Yeah.
Yes, we strongly encourage it.
I will try my best.
Thank you, guys.
And let me take it a step further. I don't know if a provision can be made or not, because I don't want to penalize anybody. I know you said you wanted workforce, get some of those folks in there.
Originally, we came in thinking that we would do a workforce type setup, but we didn't have the commercial part of the component in that. So we decided to go with the cluster homes because we weren't concerned about trying to rent the things weekly, ever. We were always concerned of having a place for a year-rounder, even 6 months around, working down there that had a place to go either rent or buy.
Right. Well,
And they're small homes. They're
1,200 square.
1,200
Yes,
square
sir.
feet.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Where I'm going with that is, I want to help the individual that's looking to find somewhere. I don't want any hesitation on their part. well, they can't sign a lease for a 12-month period. I'd like to take it a step further that if in fact they signed a 12-month lease, that they would have a stipulations to help you guys out in there, as long as they gave them a 30-day notice that they could be released from that year contract, you know? Because you might get somebody down here that's working for somebody on a job and he only needs it for 6 months. If he signs it for a year lease, if he can at least give them a 30-day notice.
That's where the 30-day I was talking about.
Yeah.
Gives
Yeah.
him the
But
opportunity.
that's
with-
not what our
Month to
ordinance says.
Right.
So just food for thought.
Thank you.
Food for thought.
Make note of it, and I will call the applicant today.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all very much.
Item 9, Mr. Chairman, is a request to permanently close an unimproved portion of Roosevelt Avenue on Roanoke Island. And I don't see the applicant here. Is the applicant here? If she is, she would get an opportunity to speak. She left. Is there anyone else here with regard to any of the adjoining property owners that would like to speak on this?
I got a question for you.
Hang on, that's not.
Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Malarney. I live in Wanchese at 218 Thicket Lump Drive, and I'm part of the ownership group that has an interest in the Shady Pines subdivision in North End. I believe last week my law firm sent a letter in to the Board of Commissioners. I don't know, Mr. Outen, if you've received that letter outlining our points. So I won't reiterate that. We're excited about that subdivision. We purchased a parcel with the paper roads in it for future development and consideration of the initial site plan. And happy to answer any questions if y'all have any.
I do, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know that it is the intention of paving that. I've been down there for several reasons. There's a lot of utilities and so forth. You pave it, then you got all kinds of issues. Would there be some consideration on the owner's part to entertain a pathway? And I've been down there and looked at the site numerous times. Entertain a pathway versus paving a road. Would that be an option for the owners?
I can't speak for the group, but happy to pose that question in
Gotcha.
return for next,
Maybe I should explain.
or a letter back.
Yeah. Should I explain the procedure, Mr. Chairman? Just
Yes,
so-
sir.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the public will be aware.
So what the statute says is that if someone comes to you and asks you to abandon what's platted as a public road, then you have the right to abandon it. And if you choose to abandon it, then the title to that road then conveys to the property owners on either side of the road. 50% goes to one side and 50% goes to the other. It becomes their private property. And so there was a statement made earlier that said they could acquire an easement. Well, once it's abandoned, they can't acquire that easement because they don't own it anymore. And so that would cut off whatever rights they have in and to that street because you would have abandoned it and the street rights go away. The statute also says that for you to move forward, you have to do a resolution indicating your intent to close that street. And that's what you're here for today, to make a decision whether you're going to adopt that resolution or not. If you then adopt that resolution, then you're required to come back at another meeting and have a public hearing. And at that meeting, you would vote finally whether to abandon it or not. If you chose today not to adopt that resolution, then the matter is over. If you choose to adopt that resolution, then we would come back in May and have a public hearing with regard to the closing of that street.
All right, the board understand that?
Yep.
Yeah, I understand that. I have a question for
Yes, ma'am.
Jeff. You just, what you just said, you said when you purchased the property, the street was part of that purchase?
Yes, ma'am. There were a number of, in the Evans tract, there were a number of streets that
Of the
were
streets, all
originally
the streets
platted.
down
Yes,
Airport
ma'am.
Road,
Yes, ma'am.
even though they were kind of cutouts from other properties
So
adjacent?
when you pull the deed for that property
Yeah.
that they got,
Uh,
there's a description of all the tract where all the lots are.
Yes.
And then at
saw
the bottom
pictures.
of that description, there's a paragraph that said, we hereby convey whatever right we have into all the roads and streets depicted on that plat that we're talking about, that created the roads in the beginning.
All right. Thank you.
And we're certainly happy. I mean, we obviously don't want you to adopt the resolution. We want you to deny it, but we can speak about paths if that's important to the commissioner for. And as the subdivision develops, we'll certainly want to
Yeah.
accommodate those folks.
Yeah, let's just entertain that as an option. You know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
What's the pleasure of the board? Somebody?
Or it fails for lack of a motion.
Yeah.
I'm not voting for it.
Okay. All right, then it certainly fails for lack of a motion.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
That brings us to item 10 on the agenda, and this is our RFQ that we sent out to select an architect for the early college at COA, and Dustin Peel's here for that presentation. I believe that we sent to you all the responses to the RFQ. They're big and they're thick, so we sent them to you earlier so that you wouldn't be surprised by them today. And so with that, I'll leave it to Dustin.
Good morning, Dustin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. As the county manager had mentioned, we solicited an RFQ and advertisement earlier in March, seeking a qualified architectural firm to aid in the programming and the designing of the recently approved early college preparatory project. The fruit of that was we received 6 submittals from firms ranging from Raleigh, Greensboro, Rocky Mount, Wilmington, and north into Virginia Beach. After staff review and conversations with the county manager and the finance director, we feel that moving forward with Oakley Collier Architects out of Rocky Mount would be the preferred vendor for this project or preferred designer for this project. And if you all are comfortable, I'd like to get your approval to move forward with Oakley Collier, as well as authorizing the county manager to sign and negotiate the design contract once that's ready.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion. Excuse me?
I was just going to add to that.
You're going to add something to it?
Well, just as we went through them, there were 2 or 3 that were likely candidates to do this. And of course, Boomerang was one that did the original plan. Oakley Collier has a couple of benefits. One is they have a supervisor that's here 24/7, 7 days a week on all of their projects. And so we have somebody here, and that has worked fabulously for the things that we've been building up to date. Having that person here, the number of problems that get solved that Dave and I and Dustin don't have to get into are innumerable. And so from our perspective, it has worked very well, and nobody else can offer that. And so that was one of the major points in their favor. And the second thing is that we have such a good working relationship with them with what we've been doing, and we've been getting things done on time. We get them here when we need them. All of those things work to our benefit, and to start all over again would change all that. And it's not to denigrate any of the other ones. They were all good firms, but this one stuck out for our experience and for them having staff here in the county that we can get to when we want to.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to accept Oakley Collier's as second.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bateman. The floor is open for further discussion. Hearing none, those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dustin.
This brings us to item 11 on the agenda. This is a resolution of the commissioners approving an amendment to an installment financing contract and the delivery thereof and providing for certain other related matters. And I'll turn that over to our finance director, Dave Paulson.
Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. Good morning. This is the final action for you to take to issue the bonds that will finance the Manio Youth Center, the Mans Harbor EMS station, and the Kitty Hawk EMS station. You were provided electronically copies of all the documents a couple of weeks ago. And then they were also provided to the Dare County Public Facilities Corporation Board, which is Chairman Woodard, Vice Chairman Overman, and the Assistant Finance Director, and all the staff of that. That's the counterparty nonprofit that's required under North Carolina statutes. So the resolution makes some findings of fact in that you previously determined to finance the projects and others in the capital improvement plan by granting deed of trust on the Killable Hills property that's currently under construction. And I'm going to put out one little thing. There's just 5 or 6 words in there, and others in the county's capital improvements plan. Since you got the second AA plus bond rating, we got into that AA plus club at the state level. And just that lets us have flexibility in that if these projects come under budget, we can use it toward other projects. And now it's anything in your capital improvements plan. And if you're not in that level, you don't get that flexibility. So you also are finding this, it's in the best interest of the county to enter into the amendment to last year's contract. We'll finance those 3 projects at an amount not to exceed $28,500,000. The current amount for the bond issue, the proceeds is $26.989 million. And that's in the number set that follows the resolution. We'll execute a contract to purchase and a letter of representations for the underwriters, which is Piper Sandler and PNC Capital Markets. You've had copies of the documents, the amendment, supplemental indenture 1, purchase contract, and letter of representations. You've gotten a draft of the preliminary offering statement, which is the statement that goes out for the bond sale, which makes a lot of information disclosures and commitments such as continuing disclosure to the bond buyers. You held a public hearing on March the 4th, and I 2 weeks ago submitted an application to the local government commission. You're resolving that all actions of the clerk, the manager, and finance director and our designated or respective designees are approved and authorized. You're approving the preliminary offering statement, the final offering statement, the amendment to the contract. You're approving the purchase contract and the letter of representations, and authorizing us to take any actions we need to take to get the deal sold and closed and comply with the terms of the contracts. The Public Facilities Corporation signed their resolution this morning, so that's all done. The application's on the May 7th Local Government Commission meeting, and the sale date's May 8th. The closing date's May 28th. Our current estimated rate is 347 for a true interest cost. I looked, bonds we sold last year were 345. We have rating meetings on April 15th and April 16th. So you're requested to adopt the approving resolution.
Absolutely. Any questions today? Pleasure of the board.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by the Vice Chair and Commissioner House. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bass Knight. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you.
Item 12 on your agenda is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, you have the approval of the minutes, you have the tax collector's report, you have the advertisement for the 2023 tax year liens, you have an operative IQ licensing agreement for EMS, you have an easement agreement, shallow draft cost share resolutions for fiscal year 25, Centus Corporation Facility Services Rental Service Agreement, Dare County Parks and Recreation Advisory Board bylaws revision, you have a budget amendment for emergency management reimbursable Homeland Security grant awards, you have a budget amendment to reestablish the budget of state for affordable housing grant in fiscal year 2024. You have a budget amendment for the American Rescue Plan Fund and the local assistance and tribal consistency grant. You have the DHHS Social Services Division Energy Programs Budget Amendment, and you have the DHHS Public Health Division Public Health Services Grant. Before you move forward with that, there's two things on that I need to talk to you about briefly. The first one is number 5, those easement agreements. Those easement agreements are easement agreements that we have with the carriers to put towers on some of our properties. We have some discussions going on between Matt and the carrier with regard to the location of the underground lines that run to those towers. We expect to resolve that in the next few days, certainly before we have a meeting, and we ask you all to approve the easements with the caveat and give me and the authority to amend the language to address the concerns that we have as it's now written, and then we can fix that and sign them and move along. We don't have to wait till the next board meeting to do them again. So if you'll, in your motion, to approve the consent agenda, include number 5 as amended. And then down in number 10, there's been so much talk about affordable housing. I thought maybe we ought to just make sure everybody knows what this is. This is just a technical thing that Dave has to do for his bookkeeping purposes. When the money came in from the state for the affordable housing, it gets budgeted into the budget, and it got budgeted in 2023 into the budget. This simply puts it in the budget for 2024. It just moves it from one line to another line on Dave's books. That's all this is for, but it requires your approval to make that change to the budget amendment to get that moved into the right line on the budget form. Doesn't spend any of it, doesn't do anything with it. It's just a bookkeeping procedure that we have to go through. And with that, I ask you to approve the consent agenda as amended for number 5.
Move for approval.
Yep, second.
Okay, it's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Bateman, seconded by Commissioner Couch. Any further discussion?
I'm just on the number 5 there. I'm familiar with that property. That's it's a good move.
Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
All right. Next are your board appointments. The first one you have is the ABC board. Due to the passing of Mr. Owens, the ABC board recommends Earl Sheeran to be appointed to fill the unexpired term.
Move to appoint Mr. Sheeran.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Couch, seconded by the Vice Chair. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Number 2 is the Aging Advisory Council for the Albemarle Commission. Due to the termination of Beth Moore, the Albemarle Commission recommends that Ms. Jenna Weiner be appointed to fill that unexpired term.
Motion to appoint.
Motion to appoint by Commissioner House. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bass Knight. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Airport Authority. Due to the passing of Jack Shea and the resignation of David Cronover, the authority recommends that Irvin Bateman and Tony Bruno be appointed to fill the unexpired terms.
Move sorry for that.
Move to appoint Irvin Bateman and Tony Bruno.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by the Vice Chair. Is that second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bass Knight and Couch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Jamie Cox's term has expired, and the council recommends her reappointment.
Motion to reappoint.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to reappoint. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Vice Chair. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Then is the Mans Harbor Marina Commission. Jeff James and Paul Mann, the 5th terms have expired, and both members wish to be reappointed. The commission also recommends appointing Audra Shackelford to a vacancy. Is that the one that came up? Is there another one? That was it. Okay.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's it.
Move to approve.
Motion on the floor by the Vice Chair, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Bass Knight, excuse me. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And that brings us to your upcoming board and committee appointments. In May, you have the Veterans Advisory Council with 2 terms expiring. You have the Zoning Board of Adjustment with 1 term expiring. In June, you have the College of Albemarle Board of Trustees with 1 term expiring. You have the Extraterritorial Jurisdiction District for the Town of Southern Shores with 1 term expiring. You have the Pheasant Center Advisory Board with 4 terms expiring. the Hatteras Community Center Board with 2 terms expiring, the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council with 5 terms expiring, the Mans Harbor Community Center Board with 2 terms expiring, the Roanoke Island Community Center Board with 2 terms expiring, the Rodanthe Wave Salvo Community Center Board with 2 terms expiring, and the Waterways Commission with 4 terms expiring. And then in July, you have the East Lake Community Center Board with 1 term expiring, the Game and Wildlife Commission with 4 terms expiring, the Older Adult Services Board with 1 term expiring, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Council with 8 terms expiring, and the Wanchese Community Center Board with 2 terms expiring. And that would be your agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, County Manager. That brings us to item 14. But prior to that, I'd like, unfortunately, those that spoke this morning in public comment are not here. So I'm hoping that they will follow up since we tape our meetings. I'd like to respond to the public comments this morning, and I'll open the floor for any other further commissioner if they have any comments they'd like to respond. First, Mary Ellen Balance talked about the shooting teams. This is great to see our students, some 140 students involved in this with 3 different high schools and the accomplishments that they make. And I just wanted to thank Mary Ellen Ballanson for bringing this to our attention and making us aware of this. And we're very proud of our students out there that participate in this program. Mrs. Aida Hoffel made some very, very good points this morning. She had 7 points that she would like to ask the Army Corps. And I agree with those 7 points that she made, and I would just let you guys know if you're in agreement with it. I would like to have our clerk prepare a letter with those 7 points and questions to the Army Corps, and I sign off on it and we send it. We need all the help we can get finding answers to what's going on down there and getting some support. So if I have your blessing to do that, I would certainly write a letter.
Can we also include, I don't know how much help he can be, the governor included in that?
Absolutely, absolutely. That was my next point. I was going to write a separate letter letting the governor know what steps we've taken as a board, meaning our meeting with our federal legislators, and ask him to weigh in and support, help us navigate that to get to the feds to get something done. So I'd write a separate letter if it's.
Mr. Chairman, just to add to that a little bit, and we should do those things. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I wanted the public to know what we have done, because
absolutely.
We've gotten, EPA's involved, the Navy's involved, the Coast Guard's involved, North Carolina DEQ's involved, our health department is involved, the National Park Service is involved, our congressional delegations involved, our senators are involved, Congressman Murphy's office is involved. Everything that we've done, everything that we've sent out, we have sent out to every political person in a position that could somehow help us do this. In addition, we've had multiple phone calls, group calls, Zoom calls with all of those or some of those or many of those at various times on board working through this. So this has been an ongoing thing since it started, and we've been heavily involved. And Sheila, probably a day doesn't go by that she's not involved in something dealing with this issue. So just to make everybody aware that we're doing all these things, and the things that you just identified are yet some more things that we can add to that.
Absolutely, County Manager, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. The next individual who spoke was Brian Harris, making us aware of the Restoration Advisory Board, and I commend them for stepping up to the plate and doing that. And I was certainly proud of Sawyer, his son, and his comments, and asking students to write letters, and I think we all responded at the time. Absolutely.
That's just absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, it is. I think it's phenomenal. And we'll encourage anyone out there to write letters, so the more pressure we can put on the feds to bring this to a closure, it would certainly be a blessing for us. Justin Bateman, couldn't agree with him more. I appreciate him making the statement that he encouraged our residents to find the facts before you speak. We see way too much of that, statements being made that are not factual. And I just want to thank Justin Bateman for making those comments. As far as Ms. Morgan's comments, having made the statement that Mr. Hennessy will receive $5 million is totally just unrealistic to make a comment as such, and very, very inaccurate. I would just recommend to Ms. Morgan and those of you who are watching today, this is public information. In January 18th of 2022, over 2 years ago, qualifications to construct essential and workforce housing in Dare County presented by Coastal Affordable Housing. Mr. Hennessy is not Coastal Affordable Housing LLC. He is one of 5 principals of Coastal Affordable Housing LLC. This presentation was made to us back in February of that year. We approved this. The reason we approved this was the talent that is the principals of Coastal Affordable Housing. One of the other principals, other than Mr. Hennessy, is Robert Ferris. He's an architect of SFL&A with some 30 years experience in the business and a degree from UNC Charlotte. Well-respected architect that's been in the business for over 30 years. Another individual, a principal of that, is Mr. Rick Green, a real estate development. Started his career out in the banking business, but he graduated from Brigham Young University as a financial planner with great deals of financial background and planning. He is one of their principals with many years of service. Eric Lindstrom, another architect from UNC Charlotte, that's a part of this principles of Coastal Affordable Housing. Once again, he is SFL&A. Aaron Thomas, a well-respected builder, ECU graduate in construction management, founder of the Mercom Construction. He's completed over 800 building projects in his career. These principals of this group are total professional individuals. I encourage you, public, and Ms. Morgan, to reach out and get a copy of this proposal that was made to us back in February of 2022. For those reasons, that's why Coastal Affordable Housing was chosen to work with us on the $35 million that we got from the state. These people have experience in this category, and the builder, I believe, Mr. County Manager, is building the school in Plymouth right now. Is that not correct?
And the architect.
And the architects that are involved. So these guys have total experience in this area, and those are the reasons. For those are the reasons is why we chose them back in February of 2022. That ends my comments with respects to
May I address two
Pub-
things?
Public
that came up
comment.
in that
Yes,
same
sir, you can.
There's been some confusion both in the public comment and in the media with regard to that $5 million.
Yes.
There's a pre-development agreement that says we're working with them for them to do the things prior to building, to see if, to acquire a site, to see if the site can perk. Does it have wetlands on it? How big is it? How many units does it have? All the pre-development work, the pre-building work that you have to do ahead of time to figure out if you can even do the project. You don't go out and buy a multi-million-dollar piece of property or multiple pieces of property until you know whether you can use that property or not, and you have to spend some money to figure all that stuff out. Similarly, when you identify properties, you have to hold those properties, and so you have to enter contracts of some kind, option contracts or something where you put down some money and you say, we're not going to close, but don't sell it to anybody else while we figure all this out. And so you put down some option money or whatever to hold those properties available. And so that pre-development agreement says that they can spend up to $5 million to do those pre-development activities, whatever they are. And that would include the engineering and the design, because you have to figure all that out to see if it'll fit on any particular site. And so it can be rather expensive. You all know what architect fees cost and all those sorts of things. And so to say that we owe someone $5 million is incorrect. What that is a cap on what could be spent pre-development. We owe only what has been expended to date to do those pre-development activities. And as we go through those, Dave's team, his auditors go through those invoices to make sure there's backup and to make sure they're substantiated before we pay them. And so that's how that process works. And nobody's getting $5 million unless there's $5 million of pre-development activities. And if they are, they're for invoiced activities that things that people have done that, they've expended money for and they're getting reimbursed for. So that's how that part works. And right now, I think we've spent $386,000 or $389,000 or something like that. And there's another 270 something thousand that has been invoiced that our guys are looking at to see if they're what's good, what's bad, what's got backup and all that we have not paid. And that's all that's been paid and all that we know about that's owed at this point. I'm not saying there aren't going to be other invoices coming because some work has been being done, but to now, that's what has been done and is what's been spent. The second thing is there was some comment about the terms of how we selected the private partner coastal affordable housing. The terms of selection weren't our terms. We didn't set that criteria. The statute which created the money, the statute that gave us the money, created the selection criteria. And if we were going to use the money, then we were required to follow that criteria. So the idea that they had to have been a private partner somewhere else or whatever the other criteria were that were mentioned were all things that were done by the General Assembly. We didn't write that statute. We didn't even have a hand in writing that statute. That statute was written by bill drafting or whomever at the state level, and we saw it in the budget as the budget was being developed as well, and we didn't get an opportunity to comment on it or to write it. So those things weren't within our control. We simply followed the mandates that the state gave to us in order to use that money.
Thank you for those clarifications, County Manager. Commissioner
Quick
Beck.
question. And is it not true that if for some reason the contract with those guys are terminated, that we own all the product that money generated to develop that work?
Sure. Any of the work product, the plans, designs, whatever, we get those things depending on where we are in the stage of development if we want them.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. Important. Thank you, County Manager. I appreciate you clarifying a couple of those comments that were made as well. All right, as we move forward, item 14, Commissioner's business, County Manager's business. County Manager?
I don't have anything except that I need a closed session with regard to a real estate matter when we have an opportunity.
Okay, is there a motion to, you want to read that?
I'll read it. This is need a motion pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A3 and 11A5 to consult with an attorney employed by or retained by the county in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege and to approve the minutes of the last closed session and to instruct the county staff returning concerning the position to be taken by on behalf of the county in negotiating the price or other terms of a contract, proposed contracts, or the acquisition of real property. And this concerns the Kitty Hawk EMS station.
Okay. All right. Motion, is there a motion to approve?
So, Mr., can we do this after we get the commissioner business discussed? Or we'll do it now. We can do it now. That's fine. All right.
Yeah. Motion on the floor by Commissioner Couch, second.
Second.
Second by the vice chair. Any further discussion? Hearing none, no favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right, we're now in item 14, Commissioner's business.
No, we're in closed session. We're in closed session.
Oh, wait, in closed session. Excuse me. I'm sorry. call the Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting back to order and turn it over to the county manager.
Sure. In the closed session, the board approved the minutes of the last closed session and gave the county attorney instructions with regard to the material terms for the acquisition of real property. Took no other action.
Thank you, County Manager. That brings us back to item 14 now with Commissioner's business. And I would ask Commissioner Basnight if she would kick it off today.
I will be glad to, Chairman Woodard. I had the opportunity to attend the Dare County, North Carolina Cooperative Extension Advisory Board meeting last week, and it was very interesting. They offer so many programs there that intertwine with our own Parks and Rec, and I was very impressed, and they wanted me to express their thanks to the county for helping in removing trees from the Arboretum in Kill Double Hills. They said the county was right on it, and they were very happy about that. I had the opportunity in the month of March to deliver Meals on Wheels with Sandy Pace over at Virginia Tillett Center, and also last Thursday on that very rainy day, delivered meals throughout Collington Harbor, and I really enjoyed being able to do that. Echo what Chairman Wood has said about the State of the Child Conference. It was just so enlightening and reassuring to know that when a community comes together, we can take care of our children in the community, and that's so important. I was happy to see one of my former students this morning, Dustin, receive an award. I'm sorry I touched the microphone. I also was impressed. I attended the last Board of Education meeting, and very impressed that in Hatteras, they've taken an old activity bus and they are remaking it into a house, a tiny house, moving mobile home. They have a video about it. It is a great project. If you have a chance to look at it, I'm sure they'll share the video. It's really impressive, and the students are learning so much from that. And yesterday, I want to commend, he's not here anymore, but I want to commend Spencer Gregory with our Parks and Rec department. I had asked him to take me on a tour of all the Parks and Rec facilities in Dare County, and we left it yesterday morning at 9 o'clock, and he took me from everywhere from the swimming hole to Kitty Hawk, First Flight, Kill Double Hills. We saw it all. I saw things I didn't even know existed in Dare County. Soccer fields back in Nags Head, a lot of things we have. And Spencer's so knowledgeable and just knew everything. And so I was really impressed and really thankful that he did that, and glad to see that we have so many opportunities for our students, and glad to try to promote those as we go forward with even more things that we can do for our children. And I will stop there today.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner. Commissioner House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of reference, the South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council is hosting 4 mackerel port meetings in North Carolina. And this is, it's kind of unclear where they're going with the Spanish mackerel, so I do urge all of our watermen to attend. One of the meetings is Wednesday, April 3rd at 6 to 8 at Hatteras Village Center in Hatteras. And another one would be Thursday, April 4th from 6 to 8 in this room right here. So
It's Thursday evening, right?
It's Thursday evening. So also last night, I was at the Kitty Hawk Town Council meeting where they approved the special use permit for the new EMS station. And the town council and the mayor actually expressed to me during the meeting to make sure that I pass along to Dare County, our board and our staff that's been working on this project, that they couldn't be more happier with the way things have gone on this project. And I just wanted to pass that on as the mayor had asked me to do that today. Our day in history. Our baseball fans might find this one a little interesting. 1931, Jackie Mitchell became the first woman to play in an all-male pro baseball team in an expedition game against the New York Yankees. She struck out both Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig in that game.
Hello.
Yep. In 1917, Jeanette Pickering Rankin, who was sworn in as the first woman to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives. And on that same day, Woodrow Wilson presents the Declaration of War against Germany to Congress, which started the American forces into World War I. And our favorite part of any commissioner meeting, meet our pet of the week, Nada.
Our pet of the week this week is Nadia. Meet Nadia. She is a 2-year-old black domestic shorthair. She's a little shy, but once she's out and about, she warms right up. She gets along well with cats, dogs, and children. To adopt Nadia, or foster one of our other animals, come visit us Monday through Friday at our shelter located in Manio. For more information, visit our website at obxspca.org or visit our OBXSPCA Facebook page.
So please run down and take a good look at Nadia and all the other animals they have there, and hopefully you can give someone else their forever home. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to our service pin recipients, Matt, Bill, Matt, and Sheila, for their 50 years of service. As we always say, we can't run Dare County without them. And our employees of the month, Dustin, James, and Missy. Gracious, 3 at one time. That was quite something. It gets busy that time of year, so it backs up. Also participated in the Meals on Wheel in early March, and I agree with Commissioner Bass Knight that it's quite something to take meals to these folks and have some conversation with them. It's always interesting and refreshing. Attended the State of the Child Conference. If you missed that, you missed some great information. That was well done, great presenters, and just like you always do at those things, you learn a lot. At the Southern Shores EMS ribbon cutting on the 15th, had the opportunity to meet, as I'm sure everyone else did, with 2 EMS people from Chowan County, and they made it clear that they were going home and asked for the same thing. So, turned out to be a good deal. I want to respond to some public comment that was made, particularly with reference to county manager. And I want to say the following. I've worked with Bobby Alton since October of 2013. The public comment presenter has not worked with him a day, an hour, or a minute. I have found Bobby to be selfless, hardworking, and making decisions in the absolute best interest of Dare County for the 10 years that I have been on this board. I've always found it to be comforting that any response from him on any issue was not only factual, but also legal without having to call someone else for a legal opinion. He worked for countless hours on housing for 3.5 years, both with Woda Cooper and with Coastal Affordable Housing, each with different rules of operation. It is a complicated issue, and it is not as simple as people think, even on the land owned by the county. Reference Bowsertown. Finding fault and criticism is profoundly easy. Finding solutions is not. The at least 10-year-old argument of conflict of interest is specious at best and ridiculous on its face. You can dig a little deeper and get some real facts on the issue as a whole, or you can cherry pick segments and choose to continue to criticize and believe what you want to believe. But whether you choose to or not, in the unforgettable words of Rhett Butler, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chairman. Commissioner Bateman.
Well said, Wally. Participated in the polar plunge. They raised over $50,000. Phenomenal day. It was cold, great participation. Had a great time there, and for a really, really good cause. Last Thursday, I attended the Jockey Ridge, Friends of Jockey's Ridge dedication and ribbon cutting for the Balm Center there on property. A great turnout, and once again, they're doing great things over there at Jockey's Ridge. Also attended that afternoon the Buxton meeting in downtown Buxton concerning the Coast Guard station, and there were some upset folks there. And I appreciate the efforts of this board, appreciate what Chairman Woodard, Danny Couch, Vice Chairman Overman, and Bobby Outen did by going to Washington DC. I know you guys worked hard up there trying to get a solution, and hopefully we can find some recourse to help them alleviate the problem that we have down there. It's crazy, and if I was to go in my backyard and dump a bunch of shingles and turn them over and bury them, I guarantee you within a month, somebody find out about it, there'd be a lawsuit against me, and I'd have to dig them up and restore that wetlands to the natural pristine condition it was. But the federal government ain't got enough balls to do what they're supposed to do to clean up our backyard here in beautiful Dare County. Did you get that? Mary Helen, did you hear me?
Be sure to quote him.
Anyway, but the bottom line is, guys, we're all here and we're in this together. As I said before, this is not just a Buxton issue. It's not a Dare County. It's not in North Carolina. It's an issue that affects everybody, and they need to step up to the plate and do what they're supposed to do. Let me see here. Jersey Mike's, they had a fundraiser. All the funds went to the Outer Banks Relief Foundation. I believe this was this past Thursday. They had it. They raised $27,000 for that organization, which is phenomenal. It's really good there. Years ago, the town of Kitty Hawk, we had some lawsuits going on, and that attorney, that the firm that was representing the town, I believe the lawsuits and the attorney's fees were close to $300,000 a year. And this went on for a couple of years. It was 151 a year, 200 next year, 300. We finally changed companies and went to another attorney. Not that anything was done wrong for us billing, but when you have and it's billing out for folks representing you in lawsuits, it can be astronomical. In defense of what we do here in the county of having a county manager and a county attorney, it makes good business sense to do that.
Bingo.
On all accounts.
Amen.
I mean, you have the same man that's doing the same job as someone that has the pulse of the county at hand 24 hours of the day. Why would you not want to do that? I don't think anyone on this board was there when they made the decision to do that. Were you here, Bob?
No, it was prior to my.
Okay, probably, but it was a great decision. And it was one that I'm fully backed and can continue with as long as I'm on this board. That's all I got.
Well, let me just say this, just to echo what you just said. If we'd had to hire an attorney to work with Woda Cooper and Coastal Affordable Housing, can you imagine the amount of money it would have cost us? Because they charge about an hour.
Don't want to think about it.
Charge about an hour. Yeah, I mean, that savings alone is incredible. Not only that, County Manager Alton's been doing this government work for us. Even when I served on Kill Devil Hills Board of Commissioners, I had like some 14 years there. He was our county attorney. I mean, he knows it backwards and forwards, and we're fortunate to have him for what we pay him.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, so and once again, the public comment alluded to the fact that he served at my pleasure. He didn't serve at my pleasure. He serves at the pleasure of this board. This board makes those decisions. So once again, come on, public, listen to what Justin Bateman has said today, and let's do your homework. Commissioner Couch.
Yes, sir.
Bob, in your comments, you mentioned the fact that, the Buxton issue got a lot of attention, but we covered 6 pretty heavy-duty items with our folks up there. And I was kind of marveled at the fact that when we came in there, I mean, we had people waiting for their time with their representatives before we got there. And when we got done and we stayed on schedule, when we were coming out, there was another crew wanting to come in, and but they knew our issues. I was amazed that every time we brought something up, you could see that they were ahead of the curve. But thank you for bringing up the fact that we discussed Oregon Inlet, we discussed the permitting, we discussed the Highway 12. There was all sorts of things that I was very glad to have made that trip, and I'm glad I went. I had to juggle my schedule, but I knew this was important stuff. We don't always get access to those guys, but I was further tickled that they knew us, and I'm appreciative of those guys. I think we've got good representatives. I wish we had more, but that's the way it is. Just want to talk to you a little bit about a guy named Walton Fulcher. He was the founder of Methodist Men. He died at age 94. Just saw his obituary in the paper there. He was head of the co-op down there. He was a ordnance guy. He was dealing with bombs in the Korean War all the time. He was a major, but the guy had no blood pressure of consequence. If I had a job like that where I was handling bombs, I would freak out. But he was just a steady rolling. I'm really going to miss that guy. I'm just glad that the Methodist Men it was his vision. There were 2 other guys in there that set it up. But I mean, what they've done in the community down there, and their charter makes it specific to Hatteras Island, is I just thank God for those guys. And on the same day, there was a recipient of a lot of aid and assistance from Methodist Men. We actually got her a car. She was a 2-time cancer survivor. She finally passed, and she was just a regular salt of the earth person. Her name was Mary. I'm not going to get into her last name. But we lost somebody who founded that organization and somebody who benefited greatly from that organization on the same day. Chamber, skipping gears here a little bit, the Chamber and the Beach Buggy Association have both weighed in on Buxton Beach down there, and I'm glad that they've done, because being in the real estate business down there and having my ear to the ground, it's affecting reservations. The general public, they don't, all they hear is what they hear, and they don't. You got pollution down there? Well, I'm going somewhere else. We can't have that. So I'm glad that the message has been massaged to show that there are 70 some odd miles of beaches down there, and that one little area there should not impact people's vacations. We're looking forward to a great summer down there. The weekend, the weather was just fantastic. So I would tell our guests, we got plenty of beach. Don't get upset. Come see us. One more little piece of good news, very heartwarming. Grandson of a friend of the board here. He's actually in the Methodist Men as well. Most every men down there cover 7 denominations. They call it the Methodist Men because that's what the charter's in. But we've got agnostics. I think 1 or 2 atheists in there too. But this guy, his name was Tucker Carroll. He had some blood work done, and it turned out that he had a very rare blood type. I mean, he's got family down on the island, and he got a call from a hospital, a national hospital, and said, we have someone who's in need of a leukemia patient and is in need of your blood type. And he said, I'll be there. He bought a plane ticket and flew out to give donation for this guy to live. And it was just an amazing thing. He doesn't want any recognition. It was actually told to me by somebody else, but just really makes me feel good to know that there's people like that out there. Congratulations to all our people. I know that we have, when we have service bins and when we have employees of the month, it's all, I love that stuff. I really do. I can do that all day long. But it was just the Matt, the girls there from social services, I've forgotten her name, bless her heart, but she goes in there and does hospice work. And that's an amazing woman right there. And James, I've known James for years. And, he's a hardworking guy. And these are the guys that help keep us go. I don't care if you're a head of a department or if you're somebody who's got to pick up trash or change the oil and fleet maintenance. We got really, really good people in our county. I'm just tickled to death. I'm going to, just can't say enough about them. One last thing, I didn't want Chesley Midget Foodorama just to go by without, and I mentioned it, and you and I talked a little bit about it. I really liked him. He had roots down in Hatters. I mean, he'd tell you the way he saw it. I used to rent from him in my 20s and everything. And I mean, yeah, we'd stay up till daybreak, take a shower, and go to work. But he would say something about it, but you knew that he'd been there at some point in his life, so he never made too much of an issue other than just quiet down because my phone's ringing. That's it. Good meeting today, and I appreciate the good work of this board.
Thank you, Commissioner Couch. I appreciate it. County Manager, do you have anything else for us?
Nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
I'll refer to our Public Information Officer, Ms. Hester. Do you have anything for us today?
I was going to mention two things. Volunteer month, I think it's important just to recognize all the people that do volunteer with the county and help with so many of our services. I immediately think of Parks and Rec and all the people that coach and do what they do. But we do have a site, we have a page where we list volunteer opportunities. So there's lots of ways to get involved. I think the newest listing is an ambassador or ambassadors for the Love the Beach, Respect the Ocean campaign. Emergency management has a lot of opportunities for people who might help get out and promote beach safety. And that's darenc.gov/volunteer. So I wanted to mention that. And then also the county's Trails Committee, which is a subcommittee of Parks and Rec. They're going to celebrate the Marshall and Gussie Collins, this trail here right out here on Friday afternoon at 3 at the Virginia Tillett Center. So that'll be a really nice time.
So family members going to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot about the history, the farming that took place on this land.
Yeah, they wouldn't recognize this place today.
I know.
Yeah.
But I think it's important. And that's taking place Friday. And if you do come, be sure and wear your blue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I have.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Mr. Chairman, I have one thing.
Okay.
Just as an abundance of caution. If I could get a motion to authorize me to record the deed to the Kitty Hawk property for the EMS station and to execute the lease with the town of Kitty Hawk to lease back the fire bay that they get as a portion of that project.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House, second by the Vice Chairman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. That brings us to the close of our meeting today. I thought it was a very good meeting. We had a lot of good presentations, and I want to thank my fellow board members for your commitment and your dedication to Dare County, because it's second to none. And I'm privileged to serve with each and every one of you. With that being said, I need an adjournment motion until 9 o'clock on May the 7th.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner House to adjourn until May 7th. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bassnight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
I figured it out.